Husband slapped me after I confided in him that I was raped in the past. So I, F23, and my husband, M28, have been together for 5 years now, married for 2. He works in the IT and is the only one working while I'm studying economy and work part-time on weekends, so we both contribute to the household. We've always been a very happy couple. Everyone seemed to be a little jealous of our connection as we were always also best friends. He's a very sweet, hard-working man who seems to love me and wants me to feel secure, sometimes in ways that I don't agree with, like putting down other women for looking a certain way, and I've talked about it to him, but he doesn't seem to know what the big problem is. Not sure if that's relevant. TW, rape. I've been raped when I was in high school, before we knew each other, by a classmate on a school trip. We barely knew each other, but one night he got into the women's bathroom when everyone was outside, besides me, and raped me and strangled me really badly, so I couldn't run away. After that, I went to the police, but nothing happened. The police dismissed it because they didn't believe me and said I couldn't just decide to ruin someone's life one day because of a whim. I still did have strangulation marks though. I recently decided to tell my husband everything since I finally got the courage and stopped being ashamed. Thank you. I sat him down yesterday and told him everything. After that, he put his face in his hands and then slapped me really hard. I could feel my tooth has been chipped. He then stood up, packed some of his clothes and left. I was crying the whole time and he only told me to shut the fuck up. I don't really know what to do. I didn't call him or anyone else. It's already morning but he hasn't come back. Any help would be appreciated on how to proceed. Edit. Thank you for all the advice and, honestly, I'm kinda torn up on how to proceed this entire situation. I'm happy that a few people from my country have spoken up specifically so that they could help me since my knowledge of law is limited. Never thought I'd end up in a situation like this. Now I know it's better safe than sorry. I'm probably gonna post a separate update when the situation becomes clearer, but now I'm staying with my family temporarily since I don't have much money to my name. Thank you for anyone that's concerned about me. I honestly felt immensely happy reading that so many people care for a random stranger on the internet. Stay safe, people. Update. Hi. So over a week ago I posted about my husband slapping me after you know what. If anyone wants to read the post, it's still up apparently. It's gonna be a long and messy update since I'm really tired and want to write my thoughts down quickly. So, oh boy, the whole thing is just a big mess. Let me start with that first. After I wrote the Reddit post somewhere in the morning, the day after it happened and my husband left, I packed some of my stuff and left. Fortunately, none of my valuable things were there. The computer and apartment were his, and for those of you who were curious, no, we don't have kids, so that was the easiest part. I waited a few hours for a train and just went straight to my family house where my parents and older brother live with his wife. I told them everything that happened and that I had no idea why he could have done that since he was always sympathetic with me when it was getting hard, though never to this extent. My brother's wife works in court and knows quite a few people, so she said she would help me resolve this. I feel like she was fuming the most out of all of them. She's truly a great person. 2 days later, we all decided to go back to the apartment to get the rest of my stuff. Yes, 5 people went to get a suitcase or 2 of clothes lol. He was not home and it seemed like he did not come back once after he left, which was weird. All the time, I was so nervous he would come back, my hands were shaking. I had to go to the toilet, because I could feel some things wanted to be freed really bad, to which my brother said, don't flush it, he deserves a last present, and so I did. I'm a petty bitch and so is my brother, guess we really are family after all. But man, did that feel satisfying. I feel gross writing about it though lol. My university is going to be fully online this year, which is my last year of uni, so I don't have to go back to the city anymore, at least before graduation, and I can stay with my family for however long I want to. My uni also helped me get a therapist which I'm meeting, through Skype, in a few days, so that's quite exciting, because I'm very eager to go guilt-free and finally feel relieved. As for my marriage, he finally did call me after about 5 days I think and was asking where I went. I told him to not worry about it since I'm gonna file for divorce and hope he's not gonna cause trouble. I managed to keep cool while talking to him and I'm so proud of myself. Guys. He started crying and saying that hitting me was a mistake and he's very sorry for disrespecting me like this. I told him I don't care because there was no reason for him to lay a finger on me. I also asked him why he'd do this, to which he replied something along the lines of, I don't know, I suddenly got very angry and was frustrated that you didn't tell me before that you'd slept with someone else. I hope you've caught it, because he said, slept with. Right then I was so done, I started half yelling half talking through the phone. I told him, why would that even matter? I'm married to you, and apparently, he asked me at the beginning of our relationship if I'd slept with anyone else before and answered him with, no. Now I'm mad, so I yelled, I was fucking raped, sex does not equal rape, you shithead, and added that my lawyer will probably be contacting him very soon, so it's best for him to not call me at all and be compliant. He tried to backfire saying that it was not the main reason, but I just put my phone down. Some of you have suggested that he might have thought that I was a pure teenager when he started hitting up on me, and I didn't want to believe it because he was never really religious or anything. But here we fucking go. I'm also wondering what other reason he tried to come up with to ease things up. I also got my tooth fixed at the dentist's. I was able to visit the next day somehow, and it's now like new. The dentist asked me how it happened because it was in a really bad state. I told him I was hit, while not thinking anything about it. He kinda gasped at that moment, and I said I was sorry for saying something so unnecessary. Afterwards, he told me he used better materials and I didn't have to pay him for them, only for the service, and wished me luck. I was kinda embarrassed, but honestly, I was so done with it, and the amount of support I got from my family, Reddit, and even the dentist guy was immeasurable. I stopped feeling sad about everything. I didn't take it to the police yet. I don't know if I will, honestly, because I really don't want to think about him ever again, and the whole situation is so exhausting. I will, though, be divorcing him very soon and possibly getting a restraining order. I don't know how it all works yet, but my brother's wife has my back, so I believe it'll all go well. Thank you to everyone for any advice, and my fellow Polish Redditors who happened to find this post and came with some specific tips on what I could do, hence why I'm getting a therapist for free. Take care and stay safe. Stories number 2. Aita for telling my fiancée to stop calling me by her late husband's name. I am 34 years old and my fiancée is 31. Mon and I have been together for 4 years, engaged for 1 year. She is also 4 months pregnant with our first child. She is a sweetheart, we get along very well, and I can see myself with her for a long time. Mon was married for 6 years before she met me, to a guy named Kyle. Kyle died in a car accident a few years ago. Although the relationship between Mon and me is great, she often calls me by her late husband's name. Things like, "How was your day, Kyle?" or, "Can you grab that for me, Kyle?" I'm almost certain it's accidental, and she always apologizes and corrects herself, but it still makes me uncomfortable. She even slipped and called me by his name during sex. Finally, I sat down with her and, upset, told her that this was making me uncomfortable and asked her to stop calling me that. She started crying, apologized, and told me that she still loves Kyle and always will. I don't know why, but that really made me unhappy. At the end of that evening, her sister messaged me saying that I was rude to her sister and that I'm an AH. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. He died a few years ago, and you've been dating for 4 years. When did he die? Reply. He passed away 7 years ago. They were high school sweethearts and married early, at the age of 18. He died when they were both 24 years old. Commenter 2. Grief is weird and hard. She may grieve Kyle for a long time. She has the right to. You also have a right to not be okay being called someone else's name. Has she seen a grief counselor? Have you considered couples therapy? The two of you need to sit down and talk about how you feel. She likely loves you very much and why her brain keeps defaulting to Kyle. It is, however, also likely that she has not properly dealt with her grief. She will need compassion and time. She also needs to understand that you are her partner and Kyle is not. Your feelings should matter to her, and it is not unreasonable to ask her to make a concentrated effort to get your name right. Regardless, therapy. You should both probably go. Reply. Has she seen a grief counselor? Yes, she did in the first 3 years after his death. Have you considered couples therapy? Yes, but at the moment I haven't found any. Update. Since that day, Mon and I have been in couples therapy, and she has returned to the first therapist who treated her during the first 3 years of her grief. Obviously, it hasn't been easy. Our daughter was born a month ago, and Mon is still going through a lot, which makes taking care of a baby in the middle of all this even more complicated. Luckily, our parents are helping us with the baby. We've decided to postpone the wedding indefinitely. A lot has come up in therapy, such as finding out that Mon cries for Kyle when I'm not around. This can happen monthly, 3 times a month, or not at all. She also admitted that she doesn't feel comfortable talking deeply with me about it because she thinks I would get upset, which is nonsense considering I've heard stories about him before and never showed any upset. Some of her statements in therapy, like, "I will never love anyone like I loved him," hurt me a lot. I feel more and more that this relationship is doomed to failure. However, this doesn't mean I'm giving up. I really love her, but I'm not extremely optimistic. I'm trying to work as much as possible on the relationship, mainly for the sake of our daughter. Update 2. So, a lot has changed. Not everything has been easy, but I think, in a way, we're finding a new balance. Therapy has helped us a lot, both individually for her and as a couple. Mon is better at separating the past from the present, and she no longer calls me Kyle by mistake. We've been able to talk more openly, she feels more comfortable discussing the past and her feelings in depth. Our daughter is growing up so fast, and I can't even imagine going through all of this without our family's support. As for the marriage, it's still on pause, it's something we want at the right time. I can really see that she's putting in a lot of effort. She's been talking a lot with her sister, and we go out with her and her boyfriend quite often. My SIL has always been somewhat protective of her and is genuinely concerned about her improvement. Aside from the usual small arguments, I'm managing to stay optimistic about the future. Some of the comments on my first post helped me a lot in the early stages, and I'm really grateful. Stories number 3. Aita for ignoring my wife for throwing away my late wife videotapes. I am writing this because I don't know what to do. I have a daughter with my late wife and her name is Eleanor. Her birthday is coming up in 2 weeks and she's turning 18. Background: me and my late wife, Chloe, has been dating since college. We got older and ended up getting married, and after our wedding, she shared news to me that she was pregnant and I was excited that we were expecting our first child. Since it was our first child, we bought a video camera and made little tapes and snippets of her whole pregnancy. Wholesome things such as us just joking around or having lunch, or talking to our unborn child through the camera. We made a promise to only show Eleanor the tapes until her 18th birthday. Fast forward 2 years after her birth, Chloe passed away due to a drunk driver crashing into her car as she was coming home from her mother's house. I was devastated of her passing and went into a deep depression and having to raise our 2-year-old daughter by myself. My friends tried to get me to go out again and start back dating, but every time I did I felt like I was betraying her. Years later, when Eleanor was 13, I met Wendy. We met at a gathering for my sister's birthday and we instantly hit it off. She didn't mind that I had a daughter because she had 2 kids herself and just went through a divorce. 2 years after we got married, now back to the present. Eleanor's 18th birthday is coming up and I kept all the tapes for me to show her. Mind you, her mother died when she was just 2, so Eleanor doesn't remember her touch or her voice. I was excited to show her the tapes, and a week ago I was talking to Wendy about it and I noticed her expression going from happy to looking a bit uncomfortable. Wendy would always get uncomfortable when I talk about my late wife. I don't say things like, "Why can't you be like Chloe," or "Chloe was only supposed to be my first love," but I talk about her in a way to give my daughter a mental picture of how her mother was like. Wendy has always talked to me about Chloe and how it made her sad that she can never be like her. Chloe was a model, then started working on her fashion career, and don't get me wrong, she was a really beautiful woman, while Wendy had 2 kids in college and not in the best shape due to her words. I love both women how they are and I've never had a preference, but I feel like Wendy is gaining some jealousy towards Chloe. I told Wendy that I love her just the way she was and she broke down crying. The next day after that incident she came up to me and apologized for the way she acted last night. I told her it was okay and it's good that she felt comfortable to share her feelings, and I gave her a tight hug and a kiss on her forehead. She asked to see where the tapes were at and I showed her the box of videotapes of my late wife in my closet. Things were going fine until yesterday morning. I was looking for the tapes because I wanted to put them in a prettier box for my daughter, and when I went to go find them, the box wasn't in my closet. I looked everywhere to the point I walked downstairs to see my wife laying on the couch watching TV. I asked her about the box and she told me she threw it away with a neutral expression. My heart dropped and I asked her what did she mean, and she told me that I talk about her too much and that I need to move on with my life, so she threw them away as a head start. I was fuming with anger because not only she threw away what I had left of her, she threw away my daughter. Big surprise. We quickly got into an argument and she noticed how angry I was, so she started apologizing. It got to the point I started crying and locked myself in our bedroom. It's the morning and I'm writing this in my office, going through my computer finding old files or any type of video of my late wife to give it to my daughter, because sometimes my daughter still cries that she never got to meet her mother and I really thought it would bring her closer to her. I've been ignoring my wife for the past day and she's been texting me non-stop about how sorry she is, but I really just can't look at her right now. It's getting to the point our mutual friends are texting me to accept her apology and get over it since Chloe died over 10 years ago, but I'm trying to ignore them all because they never had someone so close to them died. I am working on finding these files and I'm starting to think I was overreacting. I don't know what to do and I really need help. Stories number 4. Rude neighbor parks extremely close to my yard. My neighbor has a huge driveway that can literally fit about 10 cars. However, he's always parking his cars right next to my yard. He also yelled at me and told me my yard is dry. He didn't say it politely either, it was rude and passive-aggressive. We don't live in an HOA, so as long as you don't have overgrown weeds, nobody cares. Well, he has been a major pain. Also, the plot of concrete on which he is now parking his truck was actually part of my land. He ripped up my yard, bark and all, and had a truck come in to fill it with concrete. He didn't even have a survey done. He just dug up the pins himself and decided that was the boundary. He is very rude and full of himself. I want to get a survey done and then install a fence because this guy is a real jerk and I want to lessen my interactions with him. Comments. Commenter 1. Get a survey ASAP. Make him repair your yard and landscaping. Water your yard, put in grass, and then mow without a grass catcher directly onto his truck. FYI, you don't say where you live, but here in Texas, you screw up your foundation with too little or too much water. Edit. Don't forget to aim your sprinklers at the truck. Commenter 2. This. I was thinking motion-activated sprinklers and maybe bird food on his truck. Don't forget to plant prickly pear or blackberry bushes all along the edge of your property. Commenter 3. That is a trick straight out of Birdseed on and around a vehicle. Every morning. Right before sunrise, asterisk. Commenter 4. Hang bird feeders in that corner. Bird shit will make him move his truck. Update. Finally got an attorney. If you know about my situation, I have a narcissistic neighbor who had yelled at me like I'm a 12-year-old kid because he didn't like the fact my yard was dry. He then decides to rip up my front yard to widen his already large driveway on an early Saturday morning at around 5 a.m. without informing me. I was sound asleep at that time, enjoying my day off from work. I had no idea he was ripping my yard out. Not only has that, but he now parked his vehicles right on the property line. The vehicles are so close that several people who stepped out of the vehicle had to step onto my yard. I have video footage thanks to Google Nest, date and time stamped. I saved the videos and sent them to my real estate attorney. He's currently reviewing and will get back to me this week to inform me how we shall proceed. Image attached for reference of careless and disrespectful neighbor. Comments. Commenter 1. Check the town codes, his driveway may not be up to code. Time to replace those plants with thorny bushes. Reply, yes. I reported him to building code compliance as his driveway is considered a modification and would require a permit. I don't think he got one. I'm gonna call first thing in the morning to check on the status of my complaint. Update. Neighbor terrified of attorney, admitted to stealing my land. My neighbor ripped up my yard and poured concrete to expand his driveway. I'm a single woman homeowner, so I suspect he thought I wouldn't notice or care. I did my research and discovered he was supposed to have a survey done. I got the survey done and my attorney prepared a letter. The next day, crewmen came out, removed the concrete and gave me my yard back. He admitted that he knew and he apologized. Next step, build a fence so I don't have to see that jerk, and whole neighbor of mine ever again. Comments. Commenter 1. I hope he got a bill. Reply, oh no, he's definitely paying. We're also looking into if he has to pay a percentage of my property taxes for the 6 months he stole my land. Stories number 5. AIO. After seeing a picture of my partner and work spouse from when they, probably, booked a secret weekend trip, my partner, 30, and I, 28, have been together for 3 years. 6 months ago, they befriended a coworker, Jay. At first, it was harmless. Jay is helping me with the project, late into midnight. Then came the inside jokes, late night Slack pings, in our bed, and Jay's emergency calls even during our dates. I voiced discomfort, but my partner insisted that I'm just being paranoid and that they're just work spouses. I always hated that term. Or it is just cultural difference. I am from South Asia and my partner is from Western Europe. 2 weeks ago, I noticed a picture in my partner's trash folder. My partner with Jay in a selfie half naked in a sauna, during a work retreat. Metadata showed the location to be a secluded cabin for rent, 2 hours from where the work retreat was held. Confronted, my partner claimed the place where work retreat was scheduled was overbooked and it was the venue that booked the cabin for them. My partner again reiterated that I am being paranoid, that this is common, and it all comes down to cultural differences. I am freaking the F out. I have no real way to verify my partner's claims. Am I overreacting? Edit 1. Thank you for all the sympathetic comments. I feel like I am at the wake for my relationship. My English might not be good, thank you for understanding. Sorry if I haven't responded to your comments yet. I am reading them and freaking out so bad and hyperventilating. Some context, my partner has been truthful and kind all the years I've known him right until now. I moved to my partner's country 2 years ago after a year of dating in my country. There's a lot of cultural differences, like night and day, and my partner has been my guide through it all. So, when I confronted them about the picture and they said it's cultural, I had to believe it. But tonight, it's 3 a.m. here, I couldn't sleep and I kept having this nagging feeling of what if. I am going to call the venue as some of you suggested. Although, the region we are in and where the retreat happened is remote enough that the nearest possible accommodation could be really 2 hours away. Edit 2, just woke up after a bit of sleep, still in panic mode. My partner is gone to office. I took the day off. To those calling this BS, I hope you never face this kind of situation ever. To those sending me chat requests, please don't. Even if you're doing this out of sympathy, I will most probably end up deleting this account as this blew up. I will post an update before deletion. I will be snooping around before I confront my partner again. But thanks again for the well wishes, advices, and everything. You've made this experience a bit less insufferable. Stories number 6. Aita for using information against my mother in court that I know will destroy her emotionally mentally. I, 34F, am involved in a very dramatic court case with my narcissistic mother and stepfather. First, a little backstory. When my sister was 1 and I was 3, my mother initially had custody. However, she had gone missing for 4 days but leaving my sister and I in the home alone. Investigations were done and we were raised by our father. There was a reunification plan, however my mother did not follow any of it and her parental rights were terminated. No one had ever talked negatively about my mother growing up or told me what happened, so when I was 20 I found my mom and decided to develop a relationship with her. Big mistake. After reuniting with my mother I discovered quite a bit of information that I previously had not known. She is a narcissist, diagnosed formally, specifically vulnerable narcissist. My stepfather has BPD, diagnosed formally. This past decade has been torture, faked cancer, I was made to shave her hair, I had to pay them to watch my 2 children, constant arguments, just too much to name. In 2022, my parents decided to move 15 hours away for a get-rich-quick scheme involving flipping homes. I decided to stay in our hometown because my youngest child's father died, and I wanted to stay close to his family, plus I was already in a year-long relationship. My mother was enraged. After she had already left she tried everything to get me to move up with them. She asked me how much money to break up with my boyfriend, got me fired from a job, wrote posts online about how mean I am, texted my oldest about me, sent me hundreds of messages each month, etc. This had been going on continuously for about a year. Earlier this year I was served paperwork, my mother and stepfather are suing me for grandparents' rights. However, no court date was ever sent. My oldest child goes to her father's every break, and when she came back from summer break with him she was acting very different. I found out that my mother and my child's father have been in close contact for about a year and a half, had my daughter speak with my mother, see my mother, and recorded videos of her that my child did not know about. I have sole legal and physical custody, so needless to say, a huge argument happened and I am now restricting any visitation. As a result of this incident, my mother and stepfather set a court date for a month from now. So here's why I ask if Aita. For court I plan on using text messages where my mother said my stepfather is a danger to children, text messages from my daughter's father stating my mother is psychotic and he would never give our child access to her, and my mother's court records. My mother has over 140 plus charges on her record in 5 different states. My stepfather knows none of it. I'm also using the fact that her parental rights to me were terminated, so legally she has no rights to my children. My concern is that knowing she's a narcissist, when I use these documents in court it will humiliate her, and probably turn my stepfather against her. I do worry it's going to trigger a horrible reaction from my mother, possibly the worst. I wish my mother no harm, I just want to be left alone and protect my children. I've been no contact this whole time, hoping it would stop but it hasn't. I am feeling so conflicted. Relevant comments. OOP responds to a point where she should steer clear of her mother, get a restraining order, and other legal action as possible. Reply, I'm glad you were cleared. Gives me hope I can get through this too. I'm staying no contact, and have no intentions in ever engaging again. Which is why I also told my oldest child's father he will not see her until further notice because he will let my mother around my child. If I can get a restraining order I will. Just trying to get her out of my children and I's life, but with limited fallout. Looks like I can't avoid that unfortunately. Commenter 1, this is your child, I don't give 2 craps about your mom or her feelings, also warn your lawyer she will lie her ass off and probably already has in the deposition. I might have missed if your dad is still in your life and if yes he might have some skeleton to help you. You don't want some left-wing judge saying she made one mistake I'm giving her visitation. You want to show how horrible she is that she will give you a restraining order so she can't contact you or your child and limit any contact with the father of your child. If he didn't know your mom was nuts then maybe let him start off slow again. Reply, I already warned my lawyer. I asked my dad if he knew anything and it wasn't too much more than I already knew, so I hired a private investigator and that's how I found out a lot of the charges. Unfortunately my child's father knew everything about my mother already and let it happen anyways. I have evidence that my mother paid my child's father in order to see my child. It's a whole mess. Commenter 2, I'm wondering why you remained in contact with your mother once you discovered her issues. Reply, I often ask myself the same question. I have never dealt with anyone like her before, and I never lived with her, so I didn't experience a lot of this wrath until I defied her wishes. I wasn't raised around her family, so I didn't know anyone else's experience. I also didn't know a lot of the criminal stuff until I hired a private investigator. The mental illness stuff should have scared me more, but at the time it didn't. Now that I do know everything, I can never let my kids near them again. Commenter 3, I'm curious why you would even care what effect this would have on her. You intend to present evidence-based facts that are entirely pertinent to a legal proceeding she started, involving the care and safety of your minor child. At no point should you be considering how that information reflects on her relationships with anyone else in her life, because that is not relevant here. Reply, I didn't specify in my post, but I have 2 half-siblings, from my mother, that are being put in the middle of this as well. So part of me is concerned that my mother will destroy my relationships with my half-siblings, who I am close to. My mother is the type of person who would attempt suicide and write a note saying that I made her do it. While I do not want my mother in my life, I do want my half-siblings. But I guess I need to just put that concern aside and maintain focus on my kids. OOP explains about her state and the grandparents' rights. Reply, my state is a little different. They only have to prove they have had contact with my children in the last 3 years. So the time is almost up, which is why the case. My number and my kids' numbers were already changed at the start of this. Deactivated all social media profiles that identified my name. I got a job that is heavily secured, and needs clearance to get in. I moved to a different city, 30 minutes from where I lived. I honestly did everything I could. My child's father was the problem, but I had no idea he was going behind my back and keeping contact. Update. I finally have an update on my situation since I last posted about 5 months ago. Court was postponed twice by my mother, for reasons I don't know. Then it was postponed for a 3rd time due to accusations that I was an unfit mother and my daughter had suicidal ideations. My mother asked the judge to appoint a guardian ad litem to make sure the children were safe. Court was rescheduled to March 2025. The past 5 months I have been doing nothing but researching my mother. I found she has a total of 19 active warrants, including 3 probation violations. I turned everything over to my lawyer in hopes something would work. 2 days after discovery was turned over to my mother's lawyers, my lawyer called to let me know she officially dropped the case. My children and I met with the guardian ad litem. They told the judge they see no issues whatsoever. After over a year of fighting this, it's finally over. It's been such a tough battle, but I'm so happy my kids are safe and will never have to go through what I have. Thank you to everyone who wrote me personally and commented such positive things. You all have no idea how much it helped me, especially when I was having such an internal struggle. My kids are doing better than ever and I'm grateful we pushed through. More info to answer some comments. I have already moved several states away, changed my contact information, and have been no contact for 3.5 years. I am currently working on getting a restraining order, but have been advised by my lawyer that I may not be granted one due to lack of proof. That's frustrating, but I'm still trying anyways. My daughter and I still have had no contact with her father, and other than a very strange Darth Vader text we haven't heard from him. He's also a couple states away from us. I also have my daughter in therapy, so I'm hoping she learns how to have better boundaries than I did. I am not going to call the different areas about her warrants yet. My thinking is that she won't make any big moves against me as long as they are active and I know about them. Something I can hold of her head, just in case she tries something again. I know it's probably not over, but this was a huge win. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, what an incredible update. Your strength in fighting for your kids is truly inspiring. I'm relieved to hear the guardian ad litem found no issues. What kept you motivated throughout this journey? Reply, thank you. What kept me going was my kids and wanting to break the cycle of toxicity for them. They deserve the world. Hopefully they will have better boundaries and not find themselves in a similar situation. How did OOP's mother acquire that many warrants? Reply, she has 30+ aliases and has 200+ charges in 8 different states, all financial related crimes, identity theft, robbery, fraud, etc. She's a con artist. Commenter 2, please do not ever have contact with your mom and stepdad again. Also that ex seems to be a jerk too. If your mom starts harassing you, just make sure to document, video, record, and file a restraining order against her as BD include your kids. That would be best. Commenter 3, contact all the venues for which she has warrants and tell them where she is, how they can find her. Let them take care of it from there. Stories number 7. Aita for not giving my house to my SIL. Throw away for obvious reasons. This happened 2 nights ago, and I'm still feeling some type of way about it. Background: my 30F husband, 32M, has a younger sister, SIL 25F. SIL is currently going through a divorce with 4 children. My husband and I also have 4 children. My husband and I live on a very quiet country back road in our little town, us and his family being the only residences on the road. So both his sisters and their families, and his parents, live within walking distance of our house. My husband and I have been married for 7 years and have 4 young children. My husband bought the land we live on from his parents when he was 18, and when we got married, we built a house on it. We designed our house with a big family in mind and designed it to be our forever home. It has never been a thought to move or look elsewhere. My SIL is going through a divorce. She is struggling, to say the least. She was in a very toxic relationship with her ex, with her contributing just as much as he was, and he filed for divorce and moved out, leaving the 4 kids with her. My mother-in-law called my husband 2 nights ago and asked if we would come over for a chat. We get there, and my in-laws and SIL are sitting on the couch like they were staging some kind of intervention. It was just really strange. My MIL didn't beat around the bush at all. She explained how SIL's ex was getting the house in the divorce and they would be homeless within the month if we didn't give her our home. It honestly took me a second to comprehend what she even said, because it was so out of left field. Husband didn't need that second and looked them dead in the eyes and said, no. In-laws started telling us things like, you guys don't need all that house, you guys can move into one of the new neighborhoods in town, you guys can just build a new house. I offered to open up our playroom and guest bedroom to them until they could find somewhere to live. We have air mattresses and the guest room has a full bath, but that was not good enough apparently. That's when we got up and left. They began yelling after us, saying we don't care about the children, family helps family, we're being greedy and selfish, etc. I'm honestly so proud of how we reacted, because my first instinct was to go off and say some hurtful things, but we went just home, to our home. We love SIL's kids, and obviously do not want them to be homeless, but they don't need my house at the expense of my own children and family. I don't see why SIL's family deserves my home. What about my kids? Now the in-laws are calling texting, saying we don't care about the kids, we're selfish and greedy, we're making her homeless, and I'm wondering if maybe we were too quick to say no. So Aita for not giving my home to my SIL. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. You can't beat making someone homeless when you have literally offered them space in your own home. SIL is making herself homeless by turning down offers of assistance because they aren't exactly what she's going for. She's really the selfish and greedy one because she insists on displacing your family rather than humble herself to live temporarily in someone else's home. Sometimes, it sucks to suck. And for SIL, this may be one of those times, but word to the wise, take your offer off the table. You've already seen they are willing to resort to anything to get you to bend cave. They aren't interested in respecting you or treating you with dignity. When SIL gets desperate, she may finally agree to your offer. But that doesn't mean the bullying will stop. Likely, it'll get worse and she'll try to make your life miserable from within your own home until you're forced to consider kicking her out. And then the guilt trips will get 1000x worse as you are now literally kicking her out onto the street. Instead, call their bluff. We are very disappointed with how little respect this family has for our family, our children, and our own home. In light of this, the previous offer to open up the playroom to SIL is no longer on the table as we feel it would be a mistake to try and share space with someone who clearly has no respect for us. We rest easy in knowing that all the rest of you, who are clearly not as greedy or selfish as us, are likely waiting with open arms to accept SIL and her kids into your homes so she will have somewhere to go without our offer. Reply. My husband has already told SIL that she isn't welcome anymore, but honestly if it came down to it, I would take the kids in a heartbeat. They didn't ask for this, and they're struggling so much. But SIL can sleep in the shed. Commenter 2. How is the ex getting the house if she's the one with the kids? Assuming that they're his kids, that is. Reply. The house is his, bought and paid for by him, without her contributing a cent. So that definitely factors in. But from my understanding, she can't buy him out, because she has no money, and the in-laws can't, or won't, buy him out either. And I'm also understanding that he is paying quite a pretty penny in child support, so I don't think she would get the house paid for by him and child support. She may have had to pick one or the other, and I can say with certainty she would choose child support money. Commenter 3. Your in-laws are old. Their family is grown up now. They don't need their house. They should stop being so selfish and move out somewhere smaller so their daughter can have their house. Why are they making her homeless? Why don't they care about their grandkids? How is any of that reasonable? Reply. My husband has been dealing with his parents and sister. I've been ignoring all the texts and calls, but from what they're saying, their house is too small, only 2 bedrooms, and they need something bigger, for the kids to be able to thrive. So obviously that means my own kids have to be moved out of the home they've all lived in for their whole lives and just go somewhere else, while my husband and I still pay for them to live in our house because SIL doesn't work and has no plans to update. Putting here because it won't let me update in the post body. So as a lot of you, and myself, though, SIL was lying about a lot. Not gonna go into too much detail because it's seriously years worth of lies, but my husband and I called the EX by L, and we 100% fully believe everything her ex told us. He has no reason to lie to us and said over and over he just wants the best for his kids and he is trying his best not to do anything that could possibly harm him in a court of law. She lied about him getting the house, lied about how much she was going to get in child support, lied about how often she would have her children. Something else that came out is that her oldest child is not even her ex's child. Just so many lies. We feel so incredibly stupid and deceived and disgusted tbh. We told my in-laws everything he had said and they were upset to find out she had been lying, but they kind of doubled down saying, she must have had a good reason, she's backed into a corner, she's really going through a tough time, and a bunch of other nonsense. SIL was called and asked to come and join us. She, of course, took zero accountability for the lying and sneaking, and was screaming at us about how gross we were for going behind her back to her ex, how she will never trust us again because we betrayed her. She also let us know that she was asking for our house because she truly feels like we had actually built it for her. Our kids' rooms were how she would have designed them herself, she would love to cook in my kitchen, she loves my bathroom layout, basically everything about my house is how she would have built it herself, and she thinks that I must have somehow known she would need a home in the future. At that point I was just done, and so was my husband. Can't argue with batshit crazy. We left to a whole lot of screaming about no longer being family and to not expect to see them again. Honestly, I think never seeing them again is the only way to go from here. It's been a crazy few days since then. We hired a friend of my husband's to put up a privacy fence around our entire property and added extra cameras to our security system. We have a good family friend of our family, not husband's, on the police force, and let him know the situation, so he knows if he gets a phone call from us that it's serious. I think Sael thought that she could have my house because she loved it. That's kind of it. She wanted it, so thought she deserved it. I guess she was either planning to sell her house at some point, or maybe rent it out, I have no idea, and I really don't think she had thought that all the way through. She just thought that if she told us all she was losing the house then we would feel obligated to help in the way as she wanted. So I hope this clears up some questions. I know I feel at peace with the situation. My husband has been grieving a bit. He's sad that his parents have chosen a liar over a man who has done everything for his family, never hesitated to help, and only ever been a doting son, but I think this is for the best. They don't treat him the way he deserves and I'm glad to be rid of them. I'm sad for my kids and the situation this puts them in, but my family has enough love for everyone. Thank you to everyone who took the time to comment and message, and give advice and ask questions. Hopefully you guys won't hear from me again. Stories number 8. Aita for not going on vacation with my friend and her kids. My 30F friend Sarah, also 30F, is a single mom with 2 kids. She's been going through a rough time after separating from her husband last year, and I've done my best to be there for her. My other close friend, Lena, and I have always accommodated Sarah's situation, visiting her at her house so she wouldn't have to go out, planning outings around her kids' needs, and being as flexible as possible. Recently, Lena and I decided to go on a vacation together, just the 2 of us. When Sarah found out, she got very upset and told us that she had expected us to include her and her kids, since we are her closest friends and she doesn't have many people to travel with. She also said that because she's in a difficult situation, she thought this was something we would do for her as her friends. Lena and I explained that while we love her and her kids, a vacation with them would be completely different from what we have in mind. We also offered to take a shorter trip with her and the kids, like a long weekend, but she dismissed that because she wanted a full week at the beach. She then said that she would have let me join if the roles were reversed, but to me, that's not a fair comparison. If I were tagging along on a vacation with her family, I'd be adapting to their plans, whereas if she came with us, we would have to plan the whole trip around her kids. Sarah has now said that she doesn't know if our friendship will survive this, which I think is an extreme reaction. I understand that she's disappointed, but I don't think it's fair to guilt trip us into changing our plans. She's also acting like we're abandoning her when, in reality, we've been incredibly accommodating for years. I feel bad that she's struggling, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's my RESP to ensure she has someone to travel with. So, AITA for not wanting to go on vacation with her and her kids. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I mean the other option is to let her come but you don't change your plans. This could call for some malicious compliance. Oh, the kids need to go to bed, have fun, we will be at the bar nightclub whatever. Reply, we did consider the idea of letting her come along while still sticking to our original plans, but realistically, I don't think it'd work. If we went out at night while she had to stay in with the kids, she'd likely feel excluded, even if she claims now that she wouldn't mind. And honestly, Lena and I both know we wouldn't actually be able to go through with it, we're softies, and if we saw her upset or struggling, we'd just end up feeling guilty and changing our plans anyway. So in the end, it would either lead to her feeling left out or us compromising our own vacation. That's exactly why we felt it was better to just be upfront about our decision rather than setting ourselves up for a situation where no one is truly happy. Commenter 2, I like this idea. You and Lena do whatever you'd plan to do, go out clubbing, get in at 2 a.m., sleep until 11, whatever. Don't take any responsibility for watching the kids at all, or maybe explain to Sarah that that's what you'll be doing, so it wouldn't be much of a holiday for her as she'll be looking after the kids 100% anyway. Reply, we've tried telling her that but at this point I feel like she refuses to understand. I think she wants this vacation so badly that she isn't able to see both sides, which saddens us because she means a lot to us. Commenter 3, I think you need to gently explain to her that she should try expanding her circle to include more people who also have children. They're much more likely to want to do the kinds of trips to enjoy with children, versus going along with the two of you single girls, and feeling left out and envious. Reply, she has some acquaintances in her neighborhood with kids that she spends time with. They're just not as close as we are, which makes sense, because we've known each other for over 10 years. But I do agree that it would be much better for her to plan these sort of things with them. I also know that her own parents and her MIL would be available to go on a vacation with her and the kids. But she doesn't want that either. Commenter 4, NTA, I don't understand how this woman thinks friendship works. Was she expecting you to babysit? Are you not allowed to have other friends? This confusing. Reply, she said she doesn't expect us to help with her kids, but realistically that is near impossible. We love the kids, and if they went up to us wanting our attention or help, or if we saw her struggling, we would never tell them to just fuck off. We had a similar situation at our NYE party where she insisted on bringing the kids, and at the end we did end up helping her with them, so we know it just wouldn't work. Can Sarah find a family member or trusted friend to look after her kids so she could go on vacation with OOP and Lena? What about the kids' father, her husband? Reply, we did tell her that if she found someone to take care of the kids she could join us. She does not want to. A vacation without her kids is not an option for her. He's unreliable when it comes to taking the kids, but she also is very adamant about not going on vacation without them because she says they're still so young and they're a part of her. How old are Sarah's kids? Reply, the kids are 3 and 1.5. So definitely not at an age where they're able to spend some time not super closely supervised. Update, she has just sent me a 12-minute voice note ending our 10-year friendship because she thinks we should have celebrated NYE at her home with her kids and that we should take this trip with her to cheer her up, and that the friendship wasn't on equal terms. This is the message I'm thinking about sending. If it sounds a little weird, it's because it's translated into English from my first language. I'm sorry that you see it like that. I do understand that you're going through an incredibly tough time, and it was absolutely never our intention to leave you behind. But to me, friendship doesn't mean that everything always has to revolve around one person, even if they're going through a hard time. We tried to find compromises, both on New Year's Eve and with the vacation, but it feels like it has to be exactly the way you imagine it or not at all. And honestly, that doesn't feel like an equal friendship to me either. Of course I can understand that you feel excluded, but that was never my intention either. There are simply moments when, as someone without kids, I want to spend time without children. You always emphasize that your kids are a part of you, which is of course your decision, but it also means that sometimes you can't have both. If you never really ask yourself whether there are alternatives because you assume from the start that you always have to or want to have your kids with you, then that's your choice, but you can't expect others to always go along with that decision. I think it's really sad that you want to end our 10-year friendship over this, because you mean a lot to me. But if this is what you've decided for yourself, then I have no choice but to respect that. I still hope that at some point we can find our way back to each other, and I wish you and the kids all the best. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. She won't read all that, and even if she does, she'll only read with the lens of proving her own point. Send a shorter message. One she can't pick apart to prove her point. I respect your decision. Please feel free to reach out when you want to resume our friendship. I am sorry to see our friendship end, but I respect your decision. Goodbye. Then cut contact until she calms down. Reply, I already sent the message last night. I definitely understand what you're saying and I agree she won't be able to accept whatever I said, but to be honest I did it more for me because I was getting sick of letting her rewrite the narrative unchallenged even though I feel bad about it. Commenter 2, so did you get a response to your message? To be honest, I doubt she will actually end the friendship. You give her way too much, so she probably won't give that up. She is just gonna lay on the guilt even more. Reply, nope, no response. To be honest, I wasn't really expecting one. She's clearly stuck in the role of a victim since her divorce. I wonder if she expected me to reply differently. In any case, she's the one who decided to end our friendship over this, so it's on her to rectify that if she should ever regret it. Stories number 9. Aita for reporting my coworker for cheating in the company walking competition. At our last company meeting they announced there would be a step competition. Participation was voluntary. If the average number of steps is greater than or equal to a 5K per day, all participants get a Friday half day. The person with the most steps overall wins an Apple Watch. We would log our steps during work days only for 20 days. I've been in a funk lately and was glad for an excuse to get back into my fitness routine. I love running and asked if steps from running could be counted. Matt, who volunteered to manage the competition, said it did. My goal was 20,000 steps a day, thinking this would easily put me in the lead, but on day 1 this guy Dave posted 23,000. I sent him a message on Teams, saying something along the lines of, "It's on." The next day I put up 24,000. He answers back with 25,000. Another coworker Jenna also joined in. The three of us started having daily chats about our workouts. By week 2 it's looking certain one of us will win and the whole group is absolutely getting a half day off work. Then I checked the log and out of nowhere, Tiffany, who'd been posting 10 to 15,000 per day, posts 65,000 steps. For perspective, a marathon I ran resulted in 52,000. So I'm skeptical, but also, maybe Tiffany ran a casual ultramarathon on a workday. Who knows? I sent her a Teams message, "That's a lot of steps, what's your secret?" She said she plays volleyball and wanted to count the steps from her games but can't safely keep her phone or watch on her to keep count. To solve this problem, Matt looked up a chart online that gives a step equivalent for other activities. Volleyball equals 89 steps per minute, tennis equals 133 SPM, etc. Fair enough, but the math still ain't mathin', so I said, "Wow, you must have played for like 8 hours. Her reply, "Well, I also rode my bike." Now this is where I call bullshit, so I clarified, "You counted riding your bike?" Turns out she didn't just use the chart for volleyball, she used it to count everything she did and convert it into steps. Bike riding, stretching, yoga, washing the dishes. All great, but those are not steps. This seemed pretty lame to me and I just said, "I don't think that's really in the spirit of this competition," and immediately went to Matt to ask about this chart. Specifically if bike riding counted toward steps. He said bike riding didn't count, it was too different and also unfair since not every employee has access to a bike. I thanked him for clarifying and told him that Tiffany may also need some clarification. Not 2 minutes later I get this message from Tiffany, "Really, you complained about me? That's actually not in the spirit of the competition. I lost a pet recently and have been so depressed. I've been struggling to lose weight and I was so proud of my steps from yesterday. Not everyone can be a marathon runner like you, really uncool." I knew I was being a little cheeky going to Matt, but Tiffany's message really took me by surprise. Am I the asshole? Update. So the feedback on my last post made me feel like less of an asshole for sure, but what happened next definitely got rid of any remaining guilt I may have had. Tiffany won the steps competition. After I spoke with Matt he tried to clear things up with Tiffany, but in his words she was combative and rude, so he ended up looping in our HR rep, Jill. Jill decided that Tiffany could keep her 65,000 steps and the rules would just be clarified for everyone going forward. Well, going forward Tiffany continued to post 35,000 to 40,000 steps every single day. Less ridiculous than 65,000, but still ridiculous considering we all sit at desks 8 hours a day. It was still a tight race between the four of us, because we, Dave, Jenna and I, had been posting higher than Tiffany prior to the 65,000 step day. Then Dave got sick. He only posted 4,000 one day and that was enough for him to fall too far behind. Then I had something urgent and time-consuming come up at work and only got 10,000 steps that day. That was enough for me to fall too far behind too. So it was basically up to Jenna at that point and she was really working for it. Even got up at 4 a.m. the last couple days of the competition to try and max out steps. The highest she ever got to was about 41,000 and in the end Tiffany beat her by about 250 steps overall. Tiffany had zero issue happily accepting her award at the next company-wide meeting and gave this super annoying speech about how everyone did so great and how in the end she's just glad we all became more active and healthy. I never responded to the message she sent me about being depressed about her dog or whatever. At the end of the day, this is my job and I'm not trying to get into some messy and weird fight over an Apple Watch and an extra 4 hours on a Friday. Stories number 10. My husband has been secretly role-playing as a cat online for 3 years. Should I divorce or become his rival? I, 27F, just found out my husband, 30M, has been pretending to be a cat online for 3 years and I don't know what to do. Okay, so I'm literally shaking while typing this. My husband and I have been married for 5 years, together for 7. He's always been kind of quirky. Like he talks to our cat in full sentences, but I thought it was just cute or whatever. Last night, I was using his laptop because mine died, and I noticed his Reddit was still logged in. I know, I shouldn't have snooped, but something in me told me to look. Y'all. This grown man has been running a whole-ass cat roleplay account for 3 years. He writes in first person as a cat. Like, human forgot to feed me today. Vengeance will be swift. Time to knock glass from high place. But that's not even the worst part. He's popular. Like top posts, awards, thousands of followers. People genuinely think he's a cat. He has internet friends that think they're talking to some sassy British shorthair named Mr. Whiskers. He gets into fights with other cat accounts about territory and kibble brands. I went into the rabbit hole and this man has a full-fledged cat nemesis named Sir Pouncelot. They have beef. There's literal fan fiction of their rivalry in the comments. When I confronted him, he just sighed and went, "You weren't supposed to find out like this." Like. Find out what, sir? That I married Warrior Cat's fanfic roleplay Tumblr in human form? I don't know what to do. He's the love of my life, but I can't look at him without imagining him typing out mlem. The humans have displeased me once again. Do I divorce him? Do I make an account and become his rival? How do I move forward from this? Stories number 11. My daughter's school says I can't walk her to the building. Context: my wife works first shift and I work second. It's not ideal, but we make it to work. Because of this, 3 or so days a week I drop my daughter, 6 years old, off at school. She loves when I drop her off, but every time it's time to get out, she gets so sad and seems like she wants to cry. She has seen some other parents from time to time, walking their kids up to the school and always talked about how she thought it was cool. So I figured, hey, when I take her to school, I'll park and we'll walk up together. She absolutely loved it. She's smiling and laughing and didn't even look sad. So I decided to do that from then on. It continued every time I dropped her for maybe 4 weeks now, and today, earlier this afternoon, my wife got a phone call from the school, stating that I was violating school policy and I am no longer allowed to walk her up to the front anymore. Now, I'm not the kind of dude to go off and cause a scene, and honestly most of the time when things like this pop up I just say fuck it and move on. But this one is kind of bugging me. I'm not hurting anyone, when we walk up we're out of the way of traffic and buses. I can't for the life of me think of a legitimate reason why this isn't okay. I will admit, my understanding and familiarity with school policies is lacking, so I may just not be seeing the full picture. Tomorrow I'm dropping my daughter off again and debating going inside and firmly figuring out what's the deal. Would I be wrong if I tried to fight this, or should I let it go? Edit, I guess. I'm Reddit stupid and on my phone. Thank you all for your replies. Figured I may as well add some stuff since I keep seeing it repeated. Yes, I have seen the other parents walk their kids up personally. I only mentioned my daughter seeing them because I thought it was relevant. Reading the policy, visiting the website, at the beginning of the year they had us sign a paper that asked whether she was going to ride the bus or be picked up, what time school starts, what time they are considered tardy, and what time school lets out. That's it. As for their website, I spent my whole lunch break at work looking through that thing. I found their school policies tab and nothing about walking your kid up to the building. I even went onto the website for the whole school system for our county. Nothing. I'm parking in the car rider area blocking other people. I'm not. There is open parking all along the track field beside the school, on the main road. That's where I park. I'm going to go in there and blow up like some boomer Karen at Walgreens. I'm not. If anyone did that it would be my wife. I don't even complain when a restaurant gets my order wrong. And me asking if I should fight this wasn't me implying I planned to put on war paint and call the banners. I meant I was going to actually ask what the issue is and find out what's up with the situation firsthand, other than my usual, oh well, did I call first? Yes, they said someone could discuss it with me tomorrow after drop-off if I'd like. I made this post to ask if I should even bother or just accept it and move on. It's a safety policy, that's a good point, and honestly it did not cross my mind. It did not occur to me that her and I walking up from the side of the building to the front with my daughter, to the sidewalk about 10 yards from the front doors with her Hello Kitty backpack would be unsafe. Does her mom walk her up? No, she doesn't do the sad thing with her when she gets out. They spend a lot more time together during the week, so I think they're both glad for the break from each other. Last thing, I really do not care about waiting in line. I'm not in a rush. The only reason this post happened is because my daughter loves it. She thinks it's cool and I like making her happy. I work second shift and we don't get to see each other a lot during the week. If any conversation happens at this school about all of this, it will be civil and polite. As I said before, I'm not a screaming Karen. I don't want any animosity at the school. I've met her principals and teachers and they're nice people. Regardless of how I feel about it though, I'm going to abide by their decision. It's their house, they make the rules, no hard feelings. Again though, thanks for your replies. I appreciate it, even the mean and negative ones. Try to be less pedantic. You'll be happier. Thanks guys, have a good one. Top comments on post. Commenter 1, go in, drop your daughter off, then stay and ask why your wife got a call when you see other parents walking their kids in. Ask exactly what policy you are violating. I would advise you don't approach the conversation aggressively or with presumption. Likely, and hopefully, it was all a misunderstanding. Commenter 2, it is common for schools to have specific drop-off procedures, whether it be parents staying in their cars in the carpool lane, parents being allowed to come up to the fence, or parents dropping their kids off at a specific door. You wouldn't be wrong to inquire about what the drop-off rules are at your child's school, although I would be surprised if you didn't already have access to this information somewhere, but you would be wrong to make a stink about those policies. Commenter 3, it may be a safety policy the school has, where no adults past a certain area without a pass. Especially at drop-off times when things are chaotic. That way no unknown adults can get by. It's unfortunate, but it is the times we live in. Update post. Hello everybody, short and sweet update for you guys. This morning I talked with my daughter about the situation and explained that we probably won't be able to do it anymore. She understood. We're brainstorming ideas to make our mornings together more special. I had the meeting with the principal this morning as well. We waited for all of the other car riders and buses to disperse, then parked in front of the school and came inside. It was fairly uneventful and very polite and pleasant. He explained that there was no official policy as of right now, but last week during pickup a student took off running and almost got hit, so they're in the works of implementing it. I don't know about the almost incident because I'm at work by that time and my wife didn't know because she gets there pretty early to be towards the front of the line. It seems reasonable and that's that. It was cool while it lasted though. Like I said earlier, we're thinking of something cool to replace it. I already leave her notes or funny drawings on her doodle pad for when she gets home, so we'll think of something. Thank you guys again for your replies. Y'all have a good one. Top comments. Commenter 1, that doesn't make a lot of sense though. A kid took off and almost got hit, so wouldn't it make sense that having parents walk their kids to the front door be more responsible? See them go in, instead of dropping them off around the corner. Or is there a specific drop-off area with teachers? Commenter 2, probably more about the amount of people coming in and out, and not knowing if a student is under a parent's watch or the school's. TBH, at my kid's school, I see the most dangerous behaviors from students when there's an event where parents are supposed to be managing their own kids on campus. But since they're on campus, they assume staff are managing even when there's info saying they aren't doing that. It gets hectic. I can understand why they would minimize that and the amount of people going in and out of the building. It's just safety. Update post 2. Hey everybody. Didn't expect to make another update, but I just got off the phone with an administrator at the school. I can walk my kid to the door. Apparently they had their school council meeting or something like that, and a lot of people brought up some of the points you guys did about how it makes no sense and relevancy and whatnot. Also, as some kind of speculated at, it was another parent, who also works at the school, who complained. The lady I talked to on the phone said she couldn't go into specifics, but the complainer basically said, I don't like that, and used the almost incident with that runner kid as an excuse. It's my wife's turn to take my daughter tomorrow, but I'm gonna take her the rest of the week and walk her up both days. It's not a big deal, but it feels nice to win one. Thanks to all of you guys. Have a good one. Stories number 12. I think my daughter is marrying into a cult. I am afraid that my 21-year-old daughter is getting herself into a mess that will be difficult to get out of. She is a junior in college and has been dating the same boy since she was in high school. He comes from a very devout, fundamentalist Christian family, where the man is the head of the household and the women are seen and not heard. The women stay home and raise children, while the men work. He was raised homeschooled and the local church was their whole life. Recently, his parents left their church and started their own church that he and my daughter are very involved in. The boyfriend approached my husband about marrying our daughter, to which my husband said, I'd rather you not. Well, the boy proposed anyways and he and his parents began rushing my daughter into the marriage. My daughter approached us stating that she was going to quit college and get married. We were shocked and panicked about her giving up her education to rush into a marriage that we didn't support at this time in her life. We met with the boy's parents, hoping that they would understand our viewpoint and maybe discuss the importance of slowing down with their son. Nope, we discovered that they were actually the ones pushing for the quick and young marriage, even going so far as to say that our daughter didn't need a college degree because their son would take care of her. What is super concerning is just how much control and influence this family has over our daughter. We have discovered that they have played a part in keeping her away from our home. They have given her a job within their church, which keeps her from being with us on the weekends, and during our meeting with them they were very condescending and said things that sounded crazy that left us with more questions than answers. Our daughter now puts this family up on a pedestal and speaks about how godly they are and how our family is fake Christians. It's almost as if she is now viewing us as her enemy. She has changed her hairstyle and wardrobe to be more modest, and will only listen to Christian music. We recently discovered that she has done all of this because her fiancé wants her to be more pleasing to God. It has also recently come to light that he has been one of the reasons that she hasn't had friends over the years because her friends weren't good for her, so she pushed them away. I recently learned of an incident where he wouldn't let her get out of the car at the grocery store because there were men there and she wasn't dressed appropriately. They were coming from the movies, so she was dressed appropriately enough to be warm inside the movie theater. I guess what I'm really wanting is for someone to tell me that I am wrong about it all, that I am overreacting. I know my daughter is an adult and has made her choice, but she is still my baby. Her wedding date is fast approaching in a couple of months and I just can't shake the feeling that she is getting into a terrible situation. Stories number 13. I, 35M, saw texts between my fiancé, 30F, and her sister about my child, her future stepdaughter, not sure where to go from here. Some background: I have been with my fiancée Jade since my daughter Katie, 8, was 2.5 years old. Katie's mother Ari, 34F, left me when she was almost 2 but lived with me for about 6 months until I finally told her she had to leave. Our relationship was toxic, she was awful to me, and has used our daughter against me for a very long time. Jade encouraged me to get a court order and I was able to get 50-50 legal custody even though I do more for Katie than Ari ever has. Ari has always been awful to Jade. Jade has her blocked on everything and only communicates with her when it's necessary, which is rare. Jade and I have a son who is almost 1. This is the long story short. Jade was out for the day with her friends and I was using her iPad to stream a movie to the TV for my daughter since her iPad was in Jade's car. It was dead and when I plugged it in texts started popping up from the night prior, one of which said, "You ever think maybe you should just leave him?" I know it's not right to go through phones but this obviously caught my attention and I'll admit I snooped. Jade responded by saying she could never do that to Katie and loves us both. But she also said at some point in the conversation that she sometimes wishes I never met Katie's mother, and essentially that Katie was never born so she could have a nuclear family with just the 3 of us. She follows up by saying it's not because she doesn't love Katie, it's just because of how hard her mom makes it. She talks about traits in Katie that are obviously from her mother and how she hopes she grows up to be nothing like her. She talks about how sometimes when Katie's gone she gets anxiety the night before morning she's going to come back because she knows Katie being here equals potential drama from her mom. She says she cries sometimes mourning the family she could have had with me had I never met Ari and had Katie. Katie adores Jade, she has asked to call her mom, always wants to hang with her, Jade always plans cool things for her and volunteers at her school. I know they love each other and I'm not even mad at Jade because I know she went through a lot with Ari because I went through a lot with Ari and in the beginning I know I could have done more to protect Jade. The list is long of awful things Ari has done and the court order details prove that. She also says in her messages that she would never say these things to me because she doesn't want me to feel bad. I know I shouldn't have gone through the messages but seeing someone text the woman you want to spend your life with inquiring about her leaving you will make anyone panic. She is the happiest, most bubbly, kindest person I know and brightens anyone's day. I hate that she feels this way. I guess I just want to know if this is something I should address. How would you feel about seeing these messages regarding your child? Stories number 14. Me, 23M, with my ex I guess, 21F, together 5 years, she left and is now pregnant. Obviously high school sweethearts and I thought we were well on our way to being married and have a family together. In fact we were engaged when all the shit went down and at that time I was the happiest guy in the world. One day out of the blue without any warning or even a small suspicion on my part she tells me that she had to talk to me and that I wasn't going to like what she had to say but she had to say it. She spent about 15 minutes crying and telling me that she would love me forever but that she felt like we had gotten together too young and she needed to be single for a while. Of course this confused the shit out of me. What does that mean? So I made her explain to me what she meant. She gave me a whole list of bullshit things about not wanting to have to be responsible for my happiness, wanted to go places without having to worry about me and other shit that just made me more confused. I told her that she could do any of that right there and right then and we didn't have to break up for it. I offered to give her space, whatever she needed. Nothing was moving her, so it finally dawned on me to ask her, was this really about wanting to date and see other people? She denied that there was anybody she wanted to date or see, but ultimately yes, she thought it was what she wanted to do. As you can imagine, I was broken by this. She tried to tell me she loved me again and I just told her to keep it to her fucking self. She then said she wanted to know if I was going to be okay and I told her that was no longer any of her concern and walked out the door. She tried calling me and sent several texts, but I just deleted them without reading and deleted her on everything. I would love to tell you I was all manly and uncaring about it, but I sunk into a deep depression. That was 3 months ago and I have not seen or spoken to her since. That is until yesterday. As I pull into the driveway of my house, she gets out of a car that is parked across the street and starts walking towards me. I don't really look at her and start walking in the house because I have nothing to say to her, but she yells out my name, so I stop and just shoot back with, "What?" I whip around and there she stands and she is very obviously pregnant. I don't know what to say to her, so I just stand there. She said she's sorry for sneak attacking me, but she had been trying to get a hold of me for quite some time and she knew I had her blocked, but that she had to talk with me. I'm not happy to see her. I'm really not happy to see the woman I loved my entire life pregnant with some other guy's kid, and I just tell her that we really don't have anything to talk about and I turn to go inside. She yells out that the baby was mine, which of course stops me dead in my tracks. Long story short, she said she is 4 months pregnant and that she was about 1 month pregnant at the time she broke up with me but did not know it. She said she didn't really even know or suspect she was pregnant till the 2nd month when she missed her period but had conflicting home pregnancy tests. However, she went to the clinic to get tested there and that it confirmed she was pregnant. She said she spent the next month trying to convince herself to have an abortion but just could not do it. She begged me to let her come in and talk with me. I won't lie, I was probably crueler than I should have been. I told her that I didn't believe that it was mine, that she wanted to go fuck other guys and that she got knocked up by some guy who wanted nothing to do with her, so she came running to me hoping I would pretend to be the kid's daddy. She of course started crying and she said that she deserved that, but she said that she never even went out with anyone else. I'll try and summarize this as it's already very long. She said that she never went out with anyone else, she never got the chance, and that she was totally honest that she had no one in mind. She said that she believes that being pregnant made her hormonal and that it made her very impulsive and that the sudden urge to break up with me was just that, a sudden urge. She hadn't been thinking about it. She asked me if I read any of her texts at all. I told her I did not, and she said if I would have read them the next day I would have seen her telling me that she wanted to talk to take it back and knew that breaking up was wrong. Here is where I stand right now after hours and hours of talking with her. My heart was shattered. There is a part of me that just wants so badly to throw away all of my doubts and fears and just take her in and be both a husband and a father. But as much as I want this, I will not be a father to a child that I did not create with a woman who left me to fuck other men. That doesn't mean I wouldn't be a stepdad or something, but I will not do this with someone who knowingly broke my heart. I have demanded a paternity test. Neither of us have a fucking clue how to do this, but she is going to ask her OBGYN at her next meeting. I don't know if I have to wait till the baby is born or what, but this is something I have to have done for my own peace of mind. She said she is fine with this as there is zero doubt in her mind that it is mine, as she claims to have never been with anyone else. So here are my questions. Let's assume the child is mine, where do I go from here? She gave me a letter she wrote when we were separated and it is dated about a month ago, and in it she writes about deep regret about hurting me, how much she loved me, how this was the biggest mistake of her life. How do I believe her that she hasn't been with anyone else since she left me? Even if the child is mine, that doesn't mean she didn't have sex with someone else. I know it may make me an asshole, but if that is the case I don't want her back. Obviously if the child is not mine this all becomes a non-issue because that is an absolute no for me beyond a shadow of a doubt. What do I do with all of this hurt and anger? I want to love my child, assuming it's mine, and as long as everything she says is true I think I want to love her again as well. But I've had 3 months of sleepless nights, fits of rage and soul-crushing depression. She told me she wants to do whatever it takes to make this work for us. She has offered to pay for couples counseling and is offering any type of transparency I want. Right now my head is spinning. 4 months ago I would have loved to be a father and make this woman my wife. Now I still have those emotions, however they are not intermixed with pain hurt. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Edit. There are so many responses that I can't really get to them all, so I kind of want to make one addition here in hopes of answering most of this. I read what you all were saying and it was loud and clear that I have issues. I was completely ignorant about hormonal issues, however I have read up a little on it today and I see where this is very possible. Please understand, when I wrote this, I had just gotten done speaking with her and my emotions were very raw and I was very confused. I love her with all of my heart, I knew that last night. The reason I can't answer all of your questions is because I am on my way to talk with her. I can't let this go. I've been given a second chance with her and this is all I want. I am still going to want a paternity test just for my own peace of mind. I hope she can understand that even though I know this is going to hurt her feelings, I think I'm just going to have to take a leap of faith and trust that everything she said about it being her hormones and how she never really wanted this. I'm sorry to anyone I offended because I came across as a grade A douchebag. TLDR, only GF I've ever had broke up with me to be free. 3 months later shows up 4 months pregnant, claims it's mine and wants to reconcile. I am confused. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. My money's on the baby being yours. If you guys have only been broken up 3 months and she's already visibly pregnant to the extent that you could tell as soon as you saw her, it's likely she conceived while you two were still together. I mean, for sure get the paternity test and don't blindly believe her, but that inclines me to believe she's telling the truth. I think jumping to, she's undoubtedly a liar and a cheat, in these situations is a bit misguided. Secondly, get it out of your head that people need a valid reason to break up. People can break up for whatever reason they want, even in a 5-year relationship. I think your inability to recognize and respect this has led you to brush aside her bullshit reasons and fixate on the sleeping with other people thing. Thirdly, for people in serious relationships at your age, especially when they've been in those relationships since high school, it is very common to want to break up for this reason. I'm in that age group and know many people who did the same thing. And it's not always about sleeping with other people, often it's just about being independent. For example, being able to make major life decisions without having to take another person's future into account. Surely you can empathize with that feeling of pressure. I know you've been hurt, but I think you're a little blinded by your hurt right now. Reply. Well, you'll have to forgive me if after 5 years and zero clue this was going to happen that I questioned the motives and didn't just blankly accept the reasoning. Hey, I freely admit it's my only relationship as well and I was deeply in love, so to be blindsided one day out of the blue kind of hit hard. Did I do a good job of handling things? I don't know. Have you ever had a fiancé? Remember, we were more than just BFGF. Break up with you after a 5-year relationship with no warning? If so, please tell me how you just accepted it in stride and moved on. Commenter 2. You're not inhuman. You're a bitter, insecure, angry, sad, disrespectful, selfish and ignorant person who is going to have a miserable life with that attitude. Reply. Well, at least I'm not one of the inhuman. Okay, sorry, that was my bad attempt at humor. I actually was a comic book nerd, so I envisioned me being Black Bolt for a while. Let me address this one at a time, and please understand that I am not trying to make excuses, I'm just trying to be honest about where my head is. Although today I feel a hell of a lot better than I did last night when I first typed this. Bitter, probably fair to say that. Insecure, sure, but to my defense my entire self-esteem was trampled on, so while I know it doesn't make it right, it's just how I coped with the incident. I have low self-esteem issues to begin with and this just sent me over the edge. If I need professional help with anything, it is probably this. Angry look I came across when I posted this because I was a flurry of emotions and that was how I felt when I typed it. However, to be blunt, I've spent more times the past 3 months crying than doing anything else. I think my reactions were self-preservation, which included trying to make myself angry because it felt better to be angry than sad. Sad, see above. Disrespectful, the only part one will agree to this would be me telling her that I didn't believe it was mine. Other than that, I don't feel like I have been. I've read this sub before and the first response I see almost universally is when you break up you go no contact, so that is what I did. Selfish. Well, yeah. And in this case I'm not even apologizing for it. Of course it was selfish of me to have all of these feelings and emotions because it was happening to me and nobody else. How else is anyone supposed to act when dealing with their own emotions? I am no more selfish than she would have been if she were dumping me for her reasons, and that wouldn't have made her wrong for being selfish either. Ignorant. Well, absolutely, when it came to the hormones I was. However, I have read up on it a little today, so I now see that this wasn't just an excuse. All in all, I made somewhat of a bad showing of myself earlier today. I am on my way to see her now and we will talk more. Update. Hello everybody, I wanted to stop back by and give everyone a little bit of an update on what has transpired since this weekend. After talking with you guys and reading, I found out that pregnant hormones can really mess with some people's minds. I went to the apartment where she is staying with a friend and the friend was nice enough to leave so she and I could have a long emotional talk. I'll spare you the lengths and depths of our conversation, but needless to say it was long, painful and filled with crying, mostly by me shamefully. I totally broke down. Any and all pretense of being strong and trying to not let anything bother me was just washed away in a matter of moments by her. She makes me very vulnerable, and while I don't like that a lot, I will say that once I got it all off of my chest I felt like $1,000,000. She was very patient, very kind, and very loving. This was the girl who I have known all of these years. From her end she stated she never went out with anyone else, did have two guys who knew we were broken up try and ask her out, but she told the first one that she wasn't ready, and by the time the second one asked her she knew she was pregnant. After hours of talking we ended up falling into each other's arms, and by this time her roommate came back because she had to go to bed to go to work. So she came home with me to continue talking. We ended up making love all weekend, which at first I thought I would be grossed out, to be honest with you, because I've never even thought about pregnant sex before. I would not have even considered it if I thought for 1 second the kid wasn't mine. That, I guess, is the uptake to all of this. I now believe her 100%, and I'll tell you why. She is insisting that we do a paternity test. If she wasn't sure she would probably not want to go through with it, but she says that she has never been with anyone else, and I believe her. So yesterday she had a pre-existing OBGYN appointment and she set it up so I could go with her. Here is what is so cool. Her doctor is a dude who can't be more than 35 or so, and he was the coolest motherfucker I've ever talked to. I mean, in real life, if I met this guy away from there he would be a bro of the first order. We went and did the exam and I got to see the baby on the scope. Man at home that I'm going to be a daddy at that point. After he did the exam with her he asked her if now would be a good time for the talk and she said yes. I had no idea what was going on, but she said she wanted him to talk with me and that it was her idea. She left and the doctor and I had a chat. He said my GF had spoken with him about everything over a month ago, and while he wouldn't talk about her medical condition exactly, he wanted me to know the facts about female hormones and how it can impact women. Like I said, coolest guy ever, he broke it down so I could understand it. He also said that she had spoken to him yesterday about paternity testing and they were going to set this up for next week. He said for both of our peace of minds we should just go ahead and do it. He also spoke for a few minuets with me about how I was feeling and even shared a story about how he and his wife nearly separated over a pregnancy-related issue. I left that day filled 100% confident that this is a relationship I want to work to have. I honestly now think she just had a crisis of bent-up frustration hormones and emotions and she didn't even know why she was having them. I just got done moving her stuff back to my house about an hour ago. When she gets off work tonight we are going to embark on our journey to make this work. I am not going to rush things because either of us may have built up emotions that we don't even know yet, but I have a ring already, and if all goes well for a month or two I am going to ask her to marry me. I know both of our families would prefer us to be married if we are going to have a child, which brings me to my next point. Now I get to tell my parents they are going to be grandparents. Which also leads me to have to tell them we are back together. This should be fun. Anyway, thank you all so very much for helping set me straight. I wanted to believe her but did not believe the hormone thing. Thanks to some of your stories I now know the truth. TLDR, met up with X and had long talk, went to OBGYN appointment. She is now no longer an ex and I am the happiest guy in the world today. I'm going to have a baby with the woman I love. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Congrats OP. Wait to tell your parents a week. If they ask about the breakup, paternity, etc., you will have the test results already and can tell them everything, she said. Makes you both come off as better and more adult. Also, my wife, then fiancé, did in fact break up with me and call off the wedding while pregnant. Luckily for me it didn't last even a day, so absolutely nobody else knew about the incident, but it definitely took me a while to get past, pregnancy or no. Good luck and be patient, it is good training for a kid and wedding planning. Because both of those can be hell, but are worth the effort. Commenter 2. Oh thank you Lord, a happy ending. I am so glad for you both. I can't imagine how hard it was to lay out your feelings like that when you finally saw each other. The fact that she understood and didn't judge you for it tells me she's a keeper. Yay for happy endings on Reddit. Commenter 3. It was long, painful and filled with crying, mostly by me shamefully. It's okay for dudes to cry man, nothing shameful about it. I'm glad this is a happy ending. Maybe get some couples therapy before the baby is born, just to make 100% sure there's a good foundation. Kids are hella tough on relationships. Causally call up your mom or dad tomorrow and be like, oh hey, me and GF worked things out and are back together. How long of an engagement do you think you'll have? If you time it right, you can ask her to marry you, get married, and then tell the family she's pregnant if it's going to be a big deal that you get married first, but maybe she'd prefer time to plan an actual wedding and despite family pressure, would prefer the baby be at the wedding. Do whatever you two want to do, don't do something just because the family would prefer it a certain way. Stories number 15. Aita because I don't want to spend time with my half-sister and niece. Last year my dad found out that he had another kid, Mia, 30F, and a granddaughter, Zoe, 7. Before this, it was me, 17M, my brother, 20M, and our parents, 55M 52F. Apparently he just had a fling with Mia's mom when he was in college, who ghosted him and never told him about being pregnant. Since finding out, it's all my dad talks about. He and Mia texted, called for a couple of months, then she let him meet Zoe, over Zoom, and then last summer, they came to visit us. We live in a big city and they live a couple states over. My brother was at college, but he even drove back for a weekend to meet them too. Everyone was so excited, except me. Like no one acknowledged how weird the whole thing is. Mia is nice, I guess, but she kept saying how she's so excited to have a family for her and Zoe. I guess her mom's not in the picture. My parents wanted to show them around our city, so anytime I didn't have school or practice, I was being dragged around doing things for tourists and kids. And that was the thing that got on my nerves the most about that trip, Mia's kid, Zoe. She was so excited to have a nan and pap and kept calling me Uncle OP. They even came to one of my soccer games that week and she ran up after, in front of my friends, to hug me and tell me that she wanted to play soccer now too because her uncle is the best on the team. When they visited over winter break, it was a lot of the same stuff. My parents got them a ton of presents, and Zoe kept asking me questions and asking to play games with her. I also found out that my dad is sending money each month, since Mia's job doesn't pay the best. I tried confiding in my brother about it, but he seems totally fine and says it's making our parents really happy to have more family. Anyway, my dad just told me they're coming up again in a couple of weeks and I snapped. I admit that I raised my voice a bit and asked why he cares so much about people he met less than a year ago. Everyone keeps saying Mia and Zoe are family, but they didn't grow up with us and I literally can't see them as actual family. I also said she's probably just using him for the money, which I know was probably a dick move, but he said he's the one that insisted sending money, and he feels guilty for not being there in her life. But it still feels so weird, so I told him I'm not going to do anything with them while they're here. Now he's saying that if I can't be a team player in the family, he'll have to reconsider taking me on our family vacation this year, which I guess they're also going on. My mom's on his side, saying Mia had a hard life, so it's natural she's excited to have a family, and that she loves having more girls in the house every once in a while. My friends are the only ones on my side. They said they'd find it weird if random people just showed up one day to be in their family. Verdict, asshole. OOP also received mixed reactions as well. Top comments. Commenter 1, YTA, I understand this can be a hard adjustment. You're not the baby anymore, and that can seem jarring. There's a kid in the picture when you're used to being the youngest. But here's the thing. You're still acting more like a baby than the actual 7-year-old. Like it or not, they are family. Maybe not your family if you don't consider them as such, but they're your dad's family, your mom's family, your brother's family. And by proxy, you're involved. They have done nothing wrong except act like a family. Your parents and brother have done nothing wrong by welcoming them as family. Saying Mia is using her father for money is an move and you owe them an apology. You need to self-reflect and realize why this is pressing you so bad. Talk with your parents, the school counselor, ask for therapy, anything to figure this out. Again, having conflicting emotions over this is valid, but the way you've been acting is not. Identify the problem. And note, the problem isn't Mia. It isn't Zoe. It's within you. Commenter 2, YTA, and asked why he cares so much about people he met less than a year ago. Amidst his kid and grandkid? Of course he fucking cares. I also said she's probably just using him for the money. No need to lash out because you're having trouble with this. There's other ways to express yourself. They said they'd find it weird if random people, well they're not random, they are his kid and grandkid, but I guess this is how a 17-year-old see it. I'm sure this is a big adjustment for you, but you're 17 and playing the petulant kid ain't going to work. You can spend your time being salty and nasty about this and ostracize your dad in the process, or you can try and move on with the family, get to know these relatives and maybe have fun. Commenter 3, I'm not gonna call you an You're 17 and having trouble dealing with this new change. You can't take it out on others though. Especially not letting Mia and the kid know about any of this. Simply ask your dad to take this slow, and not force you to be around them. That ain't magically gonna make you like them. Sure, this isn't about you, but you're also the one dealing with this change, so it's not fair to ask you to just suck it up. Commenter 4, you said that since he found out, Mia and Zoe are all he talks about. It's been a year. Is that still true, or was it only true for a couple of months where he was reeling from the life-altering news that he had a kid he's never met? If it's still true, then I give you a bit of a pass. No one is great at communication at your age, and that's if you've really examined which parts of this situation really bother you. Assuming they are all he talks about, he dropped his interest in your life. Thinks they are perfect and you're not. Acting like a better dad for her than for you? What is it that stabs your brain? If that's not true, you need to examine yourself anyway, lol. All those same questions, but I give you less of a pass if your dad found his footing and is back to normal, interested in your life, paying attention to your decisions, giving advice for your future, showing up for your games, showing up for you outside of general family time. Is it just that you literally don't know them but everyone is acting like they do? Is it just that it takes you time to warm up to people and no one is respecting that? What is it really? Threatening to leave you off the family vacation is a dick move, so I guess you come by that honestly. Even more so if he actually does it. Y'all need to have multiple conversations about this situation, probably with a therapist, because as I said above, it's going to be hard for you to really articulate how and why you feel like you do. If he doesn't listen to you or continues to dismiss how you feel, then he's the ass. That doesn't mean that I think he's wrong for accepting his daughter and granddaughter with an open heart. Your mom and brother aren't wrong for not finding the situation weird. They are allowed to feel how they feel. You don't get to dictate that any more than they do for you. Update. Thanks to everyone who gave me actual advice, rather than just calling me a spoiled asshole about the situation with no further comment. I was actually able to think through my emotions and formulate a plan forward. I sat down with my parents on Sunday and we had a productive conversation. I apologized for snapping last week, and told them that I was just having a difficult time with the amount of changes over the year, and it had built up. Through reading your comments, I realized that these feelings were probably coming from the fact that I am, as many of you guessed, the youngest on both sides of the family. There had always been a lot of emphasis on that, and with it being my senior year, I kind of expected a bit more of the spotlight than I'm getting. I also think having my brother being away at school put most of the expectations on me to be a good son, brother, uncle, host. I was feeling a little resentment that he was able to escape back to his campus, while I was stuck at home. I was pinning those feelings on Mia and Zoe, which I recognize isn't fair. My parents also apologized for not checking in with me more often about how I was feeling. I asked if I could opt out of some activities when Mia and Zoe visit, so I could still enjoy my spring break with friends. In compromise, would make more of an effort to engage with them in general, like maybe playing soccer with Zoe. Ultimately, I've realized that my sister and niece aren't going anywhere, and I have to sort out my feelings about that. I do think me going to college out of state in a couple months will help give me my own space, but for now, I'll try to make more of an effort to integrate them into my life. Top comments. Commenter 1, nicely done. Seriously, good job. You're a good soul, kid. Commenter 2, OP, handled the situation much better than most of the adults. Commenter 3, you seem like a really sweet kid that just needed some guidance in re-regulating. The amount of self-reflection you've done is admirable. Proud of you, stranger. Commenter 4, you're doing amazing. I know it's hard, but you're doing great. Yes, your first response to them wasn't the greatest, but what matters most is that you're learning. Even though it may seem easy for them. Sometimes, it's also hard because you see the life you missed out on. Just keep trying, and you'll succeed. Stories number 16. Men, it's time to tell the truth to women. We keep seeing all these posts about, would a guy like this? Do men really like that? For ages now we have been saying how all men are different and have different tastes, but it's time to stop this lie we are all saying. Here it is, ladies, every single man is exactly the same, we all like this one woman named Jennifer. Every other woman has either different hair, different weight, different height, different personality, different sense of humor, different family members, different amounts of kids. Only Jennifer has the perfect value for all these. Sorry ladies, there is the truth. We are all actually identical, and there is no man that will like you and your situation as you are not Jennifer. You can stop breaking us down with the obvious questions now aimed to force us to admit this. Stories number 17. Aita for kicking out my husband after he went to go see and comfort his ex-girlfriend. I, 32F, and my husband, 38M, have been married for 3 years. Our relationship has had its ups and downs, but we're a relatively happy couple. Though, in the beginning of our relationship, he was also dating Angela, 24F, 5 years ago. I was unaware of this other relationship, but when I found out, I confronted him and he told me that since we weren't officially dating that he didn't know we were exclusive. I told him that if he didn't cut off this relationship with Angela, that I was going to break it off. We left it at that and we didn't talk for a while when he came to my apartment unexpectedly weeks later saying it was over with Angela and that he wanted to try again and asked me to be his girlfriend. Ever since then we have been a pretty normal couple. We have our moments, but our relationship is going good and I believe he is my soul mate. Recently there's been an issue in our relationship though, Angela. 3 weeks ago, we were out running errands and went to a small boba shop that just opened up next to our local grocery store. As we were off to the side looking at the menu, from the corner of my eye, I see a woman that looks similar to Angela walk in. I do a double take and sure enough it's her. I feel an intense amount of dread and hope that hubby doesn't see her. As I'm internally panicking, I hear a woman's voice call for my husband. And as you might have guessed, it was Angela. My husband turns around and they have a small but awkward conversation. The whole time I just disassociate and stare off to the distance until she asks my husband, "Is that your wife?" To which he just nods and holds my hand. I pretty much just awkwardly smile and prayed this encounter would end the whole time. Eventually she gets in line and we wait behind her. I felt so embarrassed, I immediately got out drinks and leave. That was that, until 2 weeks ago when I saw my husband's phone light up to a Facebook Messenger notification. I asked him who it was from as he never uses Messenger. He said it was from an old friend. I asked who and he said I wouldn't know. I became suspicious but wasn't necessarily worried because I just assumed it was a friend. Until a few days later when he got another Facebook Messenger notification while I was ordering food off his phone. It was from Angela. I was shocked and confused. I went to their messages and everything seemed friendly and casual, though because of their history, I felt very uncomfortable with them talking. I went up to him and confronted him about the texts and asked why she was texting him. He told me that after running into her she friended him on Facebook and they began talking. He assured me it was all casual but I still told him I didn't want him talking to her. He assured me he would stop. I told him to unfriend her, to which he hesitated to but eventually did. There was no issue or word from Angela until last night, to which from my knowledge she spammed messaged my husband, and even called him crying telling him that her mother was sick. I guess he knew her mother and felt sympathy towards her. Angela vented to him about how she had no one and she just needed someone to comfort her. She asked my husband if he could come and be there for her, to which he said yes. I had no idea he was doing this until I saw him putting his shoes on near the door. I asked him where he was going and he told me the story of Angela's mom and that she needed someone to be with her. I told him to not go, and we had a small argument. He was rushing out the door, so I blocked him in and said that if he was going to go see and comfort his ex-girlfriend, that he wasn't allowed back in. He scoffed and pushed past me. I watched as he left. I went back inside, poured a few drinks while I tried my hardest to not cry and blow up his phone. Eventually, 3 hours passed and he came back home. I sat on the couch during this and as he came in I told him that he wasn't allowed to sleep here. He was shocked, and we got into another argument and to cut it short, he told me he had nowhere to go, so I told him that maybe he should go to Angela as they seem to help each other a lot. He then left again and I haven't heard anything from him. I'm currently staying up and have had a few drinks. I decided to post this on Reddit as I feel like I might have overreacted and been in a hole. I just need advice on how to handle this whole situation as I'm barely able to process what to do. I'm sorry if this was long, I needed to vent. Edit. Hi everyone, goodness so many of you, thank you everyone for commenting and your support. I'm going to respond to some comments right now. Small update, I eventually went to sleep and sent a text that I was sick and wasn't coming into work today. It's currently 2 p.m. where I live and I've just been napping and kind of out of it. I haven't heard from him at all and he hasn't came back home. I'm kind of worried as I don't know where he's at. His location has been off since yesterday. I might send him a text later to make sure he's okay. I don't know if this is a good idea as I'm not in the best mindset right now and have been in zombie mode. As of now, I'm trying to process what even happened as it went by so fast. I'll keep you all updated if anything happens. Thank you all again. Update. Hi everyone, it's been 8 days since I posted my original post, and I finally have an update for you all. I'm sorry it took long but I've been sick. This is going to be long so I apologize as I have to address a few things. I want to first say thank you to those that gave helpful and supportive comments, and to those that said I drove my husband straight to another woman's arms or I was hostile and controlling. First, if my husband was willing to go to another woman when in an argument with his wife, then is he really my husband? I mean I have some standards to not marry an awful person. Second, to those that said I was controlling and hostile towards Angela, if you have a partner and are okay with them doing something like this then that's something within your boundaries, not mine. I don't like having contact with exes or having my husband be in contact with his exes. Finally, the age gap. I explained the story of how they met and such on a comment, but to sum it up, she had originally lied about her age. I didn't know her age or anything about her until I was engaged. Okay, on to what happened. He eventually came home later than day. I was watching TV on the couch when he walked in. We looked at each other and didn't say anything. He went to our room, took a shower and fell asleep. I was still upset with him so I avoided going to check up on him or even talk to him, so I waited in the living room kitchen until a few hours later when he woke up. I decided to make dinner. He came out, sat on the couch and we ate in silence before he asked if I wanted to talk. I said I did and he explained what happened. From what he told me, when we saw her at the boba shop, she had friended him on Facebook later that day. He didn't friend her back though and ignored it, and eventually a few days later she sent him a message request. This is when he handed me his phone to see the messages. To sum it up, she texted him a few times over a range of days without an answer, from pleasantries, updates about her life and finally a suicidal message. Now I don't know what is allowed to be said in this subreddit, but my husband did respond out of worry for another person, or so he claimed. They talked a lot about her addictions, self-harm and other very personal things relating to that. Through reading I did find out she had a boyfriend, and that he was actually 51 years old. My husband calmed her down and they stopped talking for a few days, when she reached out again and the same thing happened. This repeated again, where he wouldn't respond until she guilted him to. When I had found out and told him to block her, he actually didn't block her out of fear, but he didn't respond to her messages until that night. She actually sent very concerning messages beforehand and called him on Messenger. He answered and he said that she was wailing and screaming in pain. Now I don't want to say too much, but she had told him she attempted by taking a bunch of pills because of her mother, which is why he rushed to her. When he got there, he told me she was acting strangely and almost pretending to have done what she did. He tried to get her to the hospital, to which she refused. After pleading for a while, he was getting ready to call 911 when she confessed she didn't actually take any pills. He was confused and asked why she said she did. She couldn't give him a clear answer. My husband was going to leave when she begged him to let her explain again. She said her mom is the only person who cares about her, and that she needed somebody with her after she found out she was sick and that she had no one but my husband, and my husband wouldn't come otherwise if it wasn't urgent. My husband wasn't buying it, so he asked if her mom was even sick, to which she denied it but seemed to be lying. My husband then left. He told me he just stayed in his car for a while before coming back home, and that's when the confrontation happened. He said he was very tired and felt horrible, so he wasn't in the right headspace to explain right then and there. He also told me he didn't go back to Angela's but instead just stayed in his car, got food and pretty much wandered town until he got home later that day. After this, I felt very overwhelmed. I usually like to take time to myself to process things before making a decision or response, so I told him I needed time. I didn't interact with him until the next morning and told him I needed more time before talking to him again and was going to stay with my parents for a few days. And now we're here. A few days actually turned into a week because as soon as I got here, I got sick. So I haven't felt good enough to even drive back home, much less process or think much. I secretly don't even know how or what to do, like how do we just go back to normal? I still feel betrayed, and even though he didn't cheat, I don't trust him, and I don't even know if he's telling the truth. I mean, divorce is extreme for something so minor, but I don't know. I have to go back home tomorrow as I feel a bit better, and I can't hide out here forever and I have responsibilities, even though it's been a nice escape and being with my family has been great. I haven't talked much to my husband except through text, so tomorrow will be our first face-to-face conversation in a week. So that's the update. What actually reminded me to do this update was I got a random message request on Instagram a few hours ago from a burner account. It's a picture and I'm kind of scared to open it. I know it's probably a scam thing, but something in my gut is telling me it's connected to Angela and I don't know if I should open it. Update. So I opened the picture. It was a screenshot from what I assume is Angela's private story of her in lingerie with a caption that says, "She'll just have to taste me," when she's kissing him. TLDR, husband came back home, Angela faked suicide and her mom might not even be sick. I went to my parents' house, have been staying here for a week and haven't talked to husband, going back home tomorrow. Stories number 18. Coworker claims that I groom children following office duck scavenger hunt. Boy, do I have a doozy. Last week I had a delivery of 100 little ducks. You know, the kind people leave around their friends' houses when they are on holiday. My work is going through a tumultuous time and I thought it might boost morale or at least give a reprieve from the negativity for 5 minutes. So I dotted these ducks around for people to find and it went down a treat. With people even rehiding the ducks for other coworkers the next day. People were laughing and talking about it for a couple of days. Even the directors found a couple. They were a bit bemused but left us to it. One of the directors made a comment that without his glasses he assumed they were sweets that had been left out. He was glad he took a closer look before trying some. My problem colleague overheard this and then made the comment that I was grooming both children and men with the ducks. Office fun equals me being a child groomer. Reported to HR, but I think I'm ready to move on to a different company now. Update. Had a meeting with my manager this afternoon and will be raising a formal grievance against the problem coworker. Some of comments. Commenter. I'm desperately trying to figure what dots they thought they were connecting to make that conclusion. There's gotta be more than they're convinced is related to this. Ducks equal grooming? The confusion is strong. Reply. After everyone went silent following her comment. She was trying to explain that it was like I was luring children with sweets but with ducks. Even though our office is 18 plus. Not entirely sure how she jumped to that, but has said she's the problem colleague. She's not happy unless she's insulted someone. OOP adds. Later that afternoon, after I had brought it up to my manager, she tried saying it was the kind of joke she would make with her husband on the sofa. Had to say that I'm not her husband, I'm not even her friend, I am her work colleague in a professional setting. How often do they joke about that sort of stuff for it to feel so normal for her? Commenter, put an obscenely large number of ducks on just that person's desk. Reply, I didn't hide all 100. Still have a few left. Might have to do that next time in the office. Commenter, sounds like the problem coworker is trying to start a situation to get rid of you. Be careful. Reply, thanks, I've reported her for other things in the past. For comments like, you're so fat you should be dead, etc., so I have a trail with HR already. Commenter, that bitch. OMG. You're calmer than I am. I'm pretty sure I would say something awful as a knee-jerk response, before I could remind myself that I'm at work. Reply, they are usually in the middle of other conversations, so I'm usually left reeling a bit, and then she gets up and flounces away 9-10 straight after. To another commenter asking how she hasn't been fired, I think the problem is no one reports it. She makes nasty comments to everyone, but I think everyone feels the same, that it's just one comment, what will reporting it even do? She's also not silly. She has only slipped up and insulted me in front of others a handful of times. 2 years worth of insults, mostly when we were alone together. Our reception team pulled me aside to ask some questions a few weeks ago. I answered them and asked why they didn't ask the problem coworker, as it's actually her area, not mine. They felt she would give them grief for not knowing. I told my manager what they had said to me and she went down to talk to them about it, but they didn't mention problem coworker and instead say they grabbed me because they saw me. Amazing, one person can create such a fear culture about themselves. Commenter, do not leave over this idiot. Your workplace needs you and your ducky joy over them. I think you should pursue some sort of defamation case against them. They have no right to put this on your name with no proof to it. Reply, thanks, I appreciate that. I try and make work a bit more fun. If I've gotta spend 8 hours with these people, I'm gonna want them to be happy, haha. I have a meeting with HR tomorrow, so we'll see where they are willing to go with this first. Okay, since it's been definitively decided that your coworker is mean and crazy, can we talk about the ducks, please? I've never heard of this before and am intrigued. Also, what do Jeeps have to do with it? Reply, Jeep owner leaves little rubber ducks on other Jeep owners' cars, there's an FB group on it. It's a cute little community thing. The hiding ducks was a trend on TikTok a couple of years ago. The ducks are tiny, under a centimeter big. You are meant to hide them both in plain sight and in silly places. One duck made its way into one director's office and his empty coffee mug. Editor's note, can confirm, I've had a few contracts with an opera company where someone hid a bunch of tiny ducks in random places. It definitely brought a smile to my face to find them. Commenter, are you a gay man? Trying to figure out if they're applying some kind of homophobic interpretation to your actions. You know, with you trying to groom all the men and children. Reply, LOL, no, I'm a straight female. However, she is transphobic and homophobic. She doesn't make outward comments, but one of my brothers is gay and the other is trans. Whenever I mention them, she is unhappy. Commenter, every accusation is a confession, they say. Reply, yes, it does feel that way. Most times she's insulted me, it's because she's insecure of something and will take it out on me. E.g., her doctor told her to lose weight. That was the day she told me I was so fat I should be dead. She was told she has high cholesterol, so she took my tea out of my hands and wouldn't allow me to put sugar in because I was killing myself. She was reprimanded at work for wearing flip-flops and vest tops to the office. So she insulted my clothes. The list goes on and on. Not sure how child grooming fits into it though. Mini update in comments. I spoke to the director yesterday and he was a sweetheart and made me feel a lot better about the whole situation. I think I am going to continue with a grievance, and at least then in the future her nastiness will be taken as evidence. He did say while vile he doesn't think it's a sackable offense yet, but did also say the only thing he was aware of at the time of the conversation was that she had called me a child groomer. None of the history. So it will still be investigated full if I raise the grievance. Brought up conflicting feelings, as I don't want it to escalate her to lose her job, I just don't want to be insulted in the workplace. Comments. Commenter, well, at least you've got lots of witnesses. If she's truly disliked in your workplace as the problem colleague, then they'll back you up. Reply, yes, I spoke to one of the ladies today. The grievance form makes you state the witnesses and I wanted to make sure they were comfortable with me putting them down, and she was lovely and said she'd support in any way she could. Update post. So it has been 3 weeks since my coworker called me a child groomer and my manager called us into a meeting where I called out her poor behavior over the past 2 years. Since then I have not heard or spoken to my coworker. She ignores any work-related message and is refusing to come into the office. She is working from home, although I can't see that much work is being done. She has recently asked a department that I have been working closely with if she can join them in their office if she has to come into work. HR have asked us if we would both be willing to attend mediation. I said yes. I am not sure what my coworker's response was, but since it was due to start this week and has not, I assumed she refused to it. I was going to raise a grievance over this, but I was invited to a job interview at a company I had previously applied for and was offered the job. Contract signed and notice handed in. Sum of comments. Commenter, oh. If they ask, are you going to mention that how they botched this incident inspired you to see what else was available? Congratulations. Reply, oh of course, my work do exit interviews so it will all be being brought up. OOP adds a bit more context to the story. I hid little ducks around the office. She joined in. Had a great time. 2 days later called me a child groomer. I got upset as I was groomed as a child. Which anyone could work out considering how old I was when I had my first child. She has my DOB on our central system and our children are the same age. I went to my manager upset. She called us into a meeting together. Coworker walked in and immediately mocked me for being upset because she was only joking. I got even more upset and called her out on her behavior. There isn't a week this woman doesn't insult or belittle me in some way. When asked WTF she thought was similar to child grooming, she said it was like luring children with sweets but with the ducks in a 18+ office. OOP follows up with another comment. Just to add, while I am the most frequently insulted belittled by her, she does do it to the other staff too. A colleague in another department has just told me she reached out to problem colleague asking for help with a task yesterday and got a very passive-aggressive response back. Her question was answered but she was made to feel stupid. She did read the email responses out loud to her bank of desks. The head of HR was sitting opposite her at the time. Lots of tuts but nothing else. Commenter, I'm sure you know this, but your coworker should have been fired on the spot. You can let them know in your exit interview that if this same coworker continues to spread accusations about you in this workplace, they'll be liable for allowing it to go on. Reply, she should have. The fact she didn't and multiple people also heard and reported it and still she didn't and still hasn't faced any repercussion and is instead breaking our hybrid working agreement etc. It was time to leave. The new job is a step up with better pay and better hours, so at least I have that going for me. Commenter, I'm constantly amazed at companies like this. I'm over here wondering, will I be laid off if I don't adhere to the ever-changing rules, and there are companies that bend over backwards to accommodate a poorly performing person who then just refuses to come in. Reply, there seems to be one rule for the problem people and one rule for the rest of us. I don't think I would get away with insulting people like that, especially to superiors. On a happier note regarding ducks, it's such a small but fun thing to do. I know it wouldn't work in most offices, but for the people I had planned it for, it went down a treat. It is a work friend's big birthday in a couple of weeks. She missed out on the ducks and was disappointed about it, so we are planning a little scavenger hunt through our local high street for her. She's a well-known resident, and ending it at her fave restaurant. I'm planning on little envelopes with clues and a little duck in each envelope too. Haha, the username was random generated, but I did wonder if anyone would comment on it when I posted. Stories number 19. AIO after I won $50K and didn't help my sister with her $20K surgery. Hit a crazy streak gambling last month. Walked away with $50,000 after taxes. My sister found out through a mutual friend and immediately called asking for help with her $20,000 surgery. Here's the thing, growing up, she stole from me for years. Not just small stuff, but actively took my things and lied about it. He doesn't need it anyway, or, you shouldn't be so materialistic, were her go-to lines. She was 7 years older, an adult, and could have respected my property, but nope. We've had exactly one conversation about it as adults where she basically said, that's just how things were back then, and changed the subject. So when she called about needing surgery money, I told her congratulations on her GoFundMe reaching $500. I've learned I don't owe people who hurt me a darn thing, even family. Especially family. My money is going into investments and a vacation somewhere with excellent cocktails and zero family drama. Am I overreacting? My friends say I'm being cruel. Stories number 20. AITA for offering multiple solutions to my girlfriend's problem, only for her to reject them and then blame me. I, 19M, am at home in Bootle, while my girlfriend, 19F, is at her uni accommodation in Liverpool. Tonight, around 9:20 p.m., she complained about being hungry but said she had no food in. She has money but refuses to buy ingredients to cook. I offered to send her money just in case, but she refused. I suggested she grab something quick from Tesco, like a meal deal, but she refused. I even offered to take the train to see her and bring food, but she refused that too. Lastly, I offered to pay for a food delivery, McDonald's, KFC, Taco Bell, Boojum, but she turned them all down. She started acting cold, then abruptly ended the call with a blunt "bye" before I could even respond. A few minutes later, she texted me, "Why am I being treated like this? I don't understand." I tried everything to help, and she shut down every option, only to act like I'm the bad guy. She does this often with other topics too. Am I missing something here? Aita Reddit just wanted to put some info here. It's been over an hour and she's still saying how she's hungry. There's been plenty of times in the past where I've let her vent and she gets annoyed that I haven't helped her or done anything. She doesn't do anything if I'm not there. If she wants to go on a walk she needs me. She won't cook if I'm not there. She relies on me to be there while she completes rudimentary tasks. Edit 2, it's the next day and we have talked. She said the reason she denied all my options was because she missed me and didn't have any motivation to make food or eat. I understand that completely, but she denied all my other options to get her food. She even told me there was an other option I didn't say, and that was to come over and make food with her. But how different is that from what I said about getting on the train and bringing food? Stories number 21. How can I ask my wife, 35F, of 10 years to stop making jokes about oral sex? We have an awesome relationship, never fight, no yelling or name calling. Lots of love and sex. It's a great marriage. We love each other very much, and I am utterly devoted to her. We're not entirely compatible sexually. My interests in that realm are broader than hers. The primary incompatibility is oral sex. I love to give and receive, she's perfectly happy to receive, but never asks for it and very rarely reciprocates. If she does, it's never been longer than a minute or two. I've never come close to finishing. Enjoying oral sex brings me a tremendous amount of satisfaction and joy, and it's a really important component of sex for me. My wife does not enjoy giving it, however. I have accepted this situation as an unfortunate reality of my life. I'll never get a blowjob. I don't blame my wife for this, and I make a lot of effort to not dwell on it nor let resentment creep in. I know her lack of enjoyment isn't something within her control. You either like it or you don't, and she doesn't. I have asked for oral sex in the past, and it is so painfully obvious that she does not enjoy it that I won't ask again. I very much want a blowjob, but I absolutely do not want one from someone that doesn't want to give me one. The issue I'm experiencing is that my wife will often make jokes about oral sex. Usually in general terms, but sometimes she'll joke about the fact that I'm not getting any. These jokes stick in me, and they really sting sometimes. I know that isn't her intent, she's just joking around with me, as we often do about lots of topics, but it still hurts. The other day she told me that she was reflecting on something thoughtful I had done for her and said to herself, "That man deserves a blowjob." She chuckled afterwards. Regardless of how deserving I may be, I know I'm not getting a blowjob. And it makes me sad. When these instances occur, my reaction has been to freeze up. I can't join in on the joke because it isn't funny to me. I can't express anything I have here because I'm not prepared in that moment. I'm afraid that saying anything will only further reduce my chances of receiving and will send her spiraling, which has happened before. So I just kind of smile and nod and try to change the subject or leave the room. It's obviously not helping anything. How can I talk with her about this? We've addressed the oral sex, the fact that she won't indulge in that with me, and how that makes me feel. We've even talked about it in therapy together. To be clear, I'm not trying to get help in getting my wife to go down on me. I'm so thoroughly convinced that she doesn't like doing it that I could never enjoy it. That ship has sailed. I don't think that ship was ever even in the harbor. I just want to ask her to stop joking about it. TLDR, my wife frequently makes jokes about oral sex and will only receive it from me. She will not give it. This despite knowing how much I enjoy it and how badly I want it. It feels bad and I'd like to ask her to refrain from the jokes. Notable comments. Commenter 1. She's joking about it because she's insecure about the fact she knows she isn't providing something you really want, and you're likely disappointed by it. It's almost like she's subconsciously baiting you to gauge your reaction or get you to say something about it. In any case, that's pretty fucked up, and whether or not she realizes she's doing it, it needs to stop. You need to communicate openly, honestly, kindly, and firmly about how this is making you feel and why it's not okay. Wife. I love you dearly and am very happy in our marriage on the whole. I've made peace with the fact you don't enjoy performing oral sex and would never ask you to do something you aren't comfortable with or don't enjoy for my pleasure alone. But please understand and accept that it's also a sad and difficult thing for me to know I'll never get to experience that again in my life, when it's something I really crave and enjoy. I choose you and I choose our marriage, because you are infinitely more important to me than oral sex. But it hurts my feelings when you continue to make jokes about it. It feels like you're mocking me or baiting me. Please be more careful with my feelings. I don't appreciate that you continue to poke and prod at a sore spot. I've made peace with it, but I don't need to be taunted or constantly reminded that it's never going to happen. It doesn't feel like a joke. It feels cruel and I'd like it to stop. Commenter 2, I'd sit her down at a separate time and have a heart-to-heart. Babe, I love you and on the whole our relationship is great, no doubt about it. However, you often make jokes about oral sex. I've accepted that you do not like it, but when you joke about how I deserve it but then never offer, it's confusing and a bit hurtful. I never want you to feel pressured to do anything you don't want to do, and I'm doing my part by accepting and respecting your boundary. But I feel a bit bullied when you rub my nose in how many blowjobs you apparently think I deserve but we both know I won't get. I need you to change this behavior. Either stop joking about it, or let's explore if there are ways we could make oral more fun for you. To be clear, I am happy with either of these. But the jokes are making me resentful about something I had previously made peace with and I need them to stop now. Reply, it's confusing, that's what it is. That's the emotion I feel. I couldn't quite nail it down before now. Commenter 3, we have an awesome relationship. Never fight, no yelling or name calling. Lots of love and sex. It's a great marriage. I wonder if the reason why you two never fight is because you don't feel comfortable being honest with your feelings. You strike me as someone who avoids problems, and then assumes everything is good because of that. The person you're with should be the one you can be the most honest with, without fear. I imagine she's making these jokes as a way for her to cope with the situation as well. Over dinner, or perhaps when you're in bed, just tell her how you feel. Hey honey, remember that oral joke you made the other day? I really appreciated the sentiment, but those jokes just cut me down. It's a sore spot for me, and ends up making me feel kind of sad. So I'd like it if you didn't make jokes like that anymore. I love our sex, I adore you and I understand that BJs aren't your thing. So I don't like to be reminded about how I don't receive them. It just bums me out. Reply, we're working on this. Our tendency to avoid difficult conversations was the reason we went to therapy. This thread is just another stop on that journey for me. Commenter 4, honey, I would like you to read something. Pull up this Reddit post you made, hand it to her, and let her read it for herself. Problem solved. Comments by OOP, her goal is to just crack a joke. It isn't, and she doesn't realize how much it stings because I haven't told her because I freeze up when it happens. I wouldn't say I'm offended by the jokes. They do sting though, and then they make me sad for days. I'm not unhappy with our sex life as a whole, just not real happy about this one aspect of it specifically. She's never offered it in a bargain. That's not her style. She just doesn't like doing it. It's more of a sensory thing in her case. Trauma, too. Her dislike of it has nothing to do with me. Yes, for her it's a sensory thing and trauma. Won't blame her for that. She knows I like it when she does it. Well, on the rare occasions it does happen I make sure to mention as often as possible how good it feels, both during and in the days that follow. I don't know if any of that sticks, though, but that isn't enough to overcome how unpleasant it feels for her to go down on me. It just isn't. I don't think she'd accuse me of making her feel bad or guilting her, but I do think she'll feel bad and guilty when I inevitably discuss this with her. She struggles with feelings of inadequacy a lot, and I have enough experience to know that there's not much I can do to dispel them beyond shut the fuck up. And like you are only saying this because you care more about BJs than her. We had that discussion in therapy. She acknowledged then that that isn't how I feel, though I suppose she could still be holding on to that feeling, consciously or not. I do it for her because I like doing it for her. I really like it. There was a period of time that I didn't go down on her that lasted around 9 months, and I did it specifically because she would never go down on me. She didn't even notice. I eventually started up again because I missed it so much. When it comes to oral sex, I prefer it be one-sided than without sides at all. I guess I was hoping that by communicating my feelings about oral sex that it would occur to her that joking about it is maybe in bad taste. I realize now that was naive and that it's my responsibility to communicate precisely, instead of imply. Our communication did vastly improve in therapy. We're still on that road though. Oh, she loves getting it. Giving is another matter. Acceptance is the resolution. She doesn't like giving them, she's not obligated to give them and I'm not entitled to receive them. This doesn't even approach deal-breaker territory. There are many other aspects of our marriage that are wonderful and I won't give them up for a blowy. That being the case, I don't know what else there is other than acceptance. I used to listen to podcasts like Sex with Emily and the women on there would speak often and enthusiastically about how much they love giving their partners BJs. It's a great podcast, and I learned a lot while listening, but I had to stop after hearing conversations like that a few times. Feels bad in the same way my wife's jokes do. We've had our share of tense discussions about a lot of stuff. I say we don't fight because we both follow two sacrosanct rules in our marriage, no yelling at each other and no name calling. It keeps our disagreements civil. You're right though that we are both pretty conflict avoidant, though less so with each other these days than in the past. That was a large topic in therapy. Trying to find a way to talk about this delicately has been so challenging. In my head every reason I can think of for why I do deserve pleasure in the form of a BJ ultimately ends up making me sound to myself like I'm some entitled incel misogynist. So I haven't said any of them out loud. I'm conflating being deserving of something with being entitled to something, I guess. This thread has really helped me crystallize some thoughts and feelings and helped me find productive ways to express them. She isn't being cruel for cruelty's sake, inconsiderate at worst. Update. First, a hearty thanks to everyone that offered advice on the first post. It was immensely helpful, and I am very grateful. I spoke to my wife in the morning a couple of weeks ago. I decided to try to focus the conversation just on her having said the week prior that I deserved a blowjob for something I had done for her. I asked her if she meant that, or if there was another reason she said that. Her explanation was that the deserved a blowjob remark was supposed to be a joke. We have agreed from early on in our relationship that we don't keep score in doing things for each other, and specifically we don't exchange sex acts for favors, so that's why it was a joke to say that I deserved one. Yeah, she really is hilarious most of the time, but this joke was a clunker, we agreed. I do take her at her word though. It was meant to be a light-hearted joke. It just fell pretty flat. Anyhow, the conversation that followed was so constructive. I said that comments like that sting a little and reiterated that while I really am okay with her disinclination to perform that particular act, that I still really want a blowjob, and that it feels pretty bad and is quite confusing to hear that I deserve one from the one person that could give me one, but won't. She was very apologetic. Causing hurt like that definitely wasn't her intent. I accepted her apology and of course forgave what little there was to forgive. We continued talking about the reasons that her giving oral and me receiving it hasn't really been a part of our sex life, and it has been an ongoing conversation since then. The big reasons she gave for not performing oral are the same ones I stated in the first post. She's not into the texture of skin and dislikes the moisture that builds up. She also talked about how she's not very confident in her abilities, which surprised me to hear, and that fatigue becomes an issue after a bit, too. I gently asked if there was some trauma that was also playing a role, and she confirmed that there was. We didn't get into details, but I can piece some things together. I know the guy she was with before me, and he is a colossal piece of shit. She's told me enough about that relationship and I witnessed enough of it before we got together that I don't think I need specifics. It involved him, so it was bad enough. Since that conversation, sex together has been amazing. We've added a little bit to our standard routines, including oral, but not too much yet. We're learning together how to embellish our sex life just a little at a time. We're talking about it a lot more, too. It's the talking out of bed that has really been revelatory, go figure. Once we pushed past the awkward opening moments and really got into the conversation, with details as precise as we could make them, it immediately began to add incredible strength to our relationship and depth to our sex life. But sustaining that conversation over days and years is really challenging. It's difficult to be that vulnerable so often, and it was surprisingly easy to close myself off from my wife, my greatest friend, in an attempt to protect myself. I love my wife so much. I love our marriage, and the partnership and friendship that we've developed. I've never known its equal, and I hope I never see its end. TLDR, we talked, and everything is good now, better than ever, really. Stories number 22. Should I have not gotten pregnant? My really good friend Sarah, 31F, is getting married in August. I am my bridesmaid in her wedding and have been helping her plan more than her MOH. For some background before I get into the story, I, 30F, and my, 31M, husband have been planning on having kids for years. We have been together for 15 years and it's been something we've wanted for a long time, but we had some obstacles. I needed a major surgery that took over a year to recover from. I needed to be fully recovered before we could start trying. I worked so hard on physical therapy and did everything I could to heal and be healthy. We got the green light in November. We tried my next cycle and we got pregnant first try. We were not expecting for us to get pregnant on our first try, but it just feels like that was meant to be. Back to the issue. The only thing her MOH has actually done is plan the bachelorette trip. When we got the dates for everything, almost a year ago right after my surgery, I told Sarah and her MOH that depending on how my recovery was going and if we would be able to start trying for a baby, I may not be able to travel regardless of pregnancy due to my surgery recovery because this was a really intense surgery. So I told them at this moment in time I can't commit to a trip in July of 2025, we were having this conversation in May of 2024, so plan and I will touch base, and if can't tag along due to things needing to be booked far ahead then I can sit some stuff out. Like meaning no one needs to change any plans for me at all and nothing needs to be delayed on planning on my behalf. I also told them that I understand that things need to be planned way in advance, and I asked when is the absolute latest I have to let them know if I'm going or not. They told me April 2025. I then got pushback asking if we can postpone trying for a baby. I said we will see what happens. I don't know when I'll be cleared and I might not even get pregnant right away, so it might not be an issue. Last week I met Sarah for our monthly brunch. I made her a shirt that says, Auntie, and told her the news. She was not happy about it one bit. She started crying saying, how could I do this to her, and she said she couldn't believe I went behind her back. She said she assumed I would not try to get pregnant by my comment saying we might not get pregnant right away. She's upset I'll be going into my 9th month of pregnancy in August, and I'll be 8 months when the Bach trip is and that I'm flaking out on the trip. I told her that I'm not flaking out on anything because I didn't commit to the trip and told them to do what they need to do without me. She just stood over me screaming at me. I just let her scream at me and then told her in the calmest voice I could muster while fighting tears that I was sorry she feels that way. She then threw the shirt I made her on the ground and stormed out of the restaurant. I then get a text from her that was meant to go to someone else, I'm assuming her MOH, that said, you're right, she could miscarry. I just feel like her being that pregnant will take attention away from me on my day. I replied and said, well, don't worry, I won't be a bridesmaid anymore if you feel that way. She has been blowing up my phone since then apologizing, but I can't bring myself to talk to her. Editing to add, I'm not going to continue on being friends with her. I was just going to ghost her because I shouldn't have to explain why I don't want to be friends with her anymore after all of that. Stories number 23. I saw a Tinder app on my partner's phone. We have been together for almost 4 years, should I be concerned? My partner and I did a video call where he was sharing his screen to show me something. But while he was on his home screen, I saw the Tinder app and immediately confronted him. He originally thought I was joking, because we do make silly jokes, and I said, no, I am serious. I told him where exactly I saw it so he went back to check and stated he didn't even realize it was there. Without me asking him, he did open the app to show me that basically it was the login page where you would create an account. So because it didn't show a profile, I felt reassured at the time. Isn't it a possibility he was just logged out and he does have a profile? Is there a way to verify when the app was last used? I messaged him after to basically say seeing the app made me uncomfortable and he told me he has since deleted it and he genuinely didn't even realize he still had the app. The thing is we have been together for 4 years and he got his current phone a couple of months before we started dating. There is a possibility he could have been using the app right before we got together. I have always trusted him and he has given me no doubts prior to this instance. I would say this is the first instance in 4 years that is making me feel a bit uneasy. Am I overthinking this? Should I trust him or do more digging? Stories number 24. Aita for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend move in with us, even though she's pregnant. I, 28M, have been living with my younger brother, Jake, 25M, for the past 3 years. We split rent and bills evenly, and it's been working out great. Jake has been dating his girlfriend, Emma, 24F, for about a year. I don't have an issue with Emma, we get along fine, but I wouldn't call us close. A few weeks ago, Jake sat me down and told me Emma is pregnant. I congratulated him, but then he hit me with the real reason for the conversation. He wanted Emma to move in with us, for now, so they could save money. He promised it would only be temporary, maybe 6 months max. I asked what their long-term plan was, and he admitted they didn't really have one yet, but he figured we'd cross that bridge when we get there. I told him no. Our apartment is a 2-bedroom, and I like my space. I also don't want to live with a newborn who's crying at all hours of the night. I said I understood their situation, but it wasn't my responsibility to make room for their growing family. Jake argued that since I don't have a partner or kids, it wouldn't be that big of a deal for me. I told him that was exactly the point. I don't have those things because I enjoy my peace and privacy, and I'm not about to give that up. Emma hasn't directly said anything to me, but she's clearly upset. Jake, on the other hand, is furious. He thinks I'm being selfish and making things harder for them when I could easily help. He even accused me of abandoning my future niece or nephew before they're even born. I don't think it's fair for me to be guilt-tripped into this, but now I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong. Aita. Stories number 25. After my wife's affair, she says I need to grow as a man. What now? Hey guys, I'm seeking advice from men who've navigated similar situations. My wife, 36F, and I, 34M, have been married since 2014 with 2 children, born 2014, 2017. In August 2023, I discovered my wife had been having an affair for over a year. We agreed to reconcile, but she's only genuinely apologized once and maintains she's not guilty, claiming our marriage was already dead before her infidelity. After several months of attempted reconciliation with minimal progress, she recently told me she wants a more mature partner, and is only staying because she hopes I'll grow as a man, referencing my lack of a father figure growing up. She says she can't fully open up emotionally because she's afraid of getting hurt again. We're in therapy, but I feel stuck in limbo. Our intimacy is nearly non-existent, and I'm questioning whether rebuilding genuine connection is possible. For those who've experienced infidelity, is it possible to rebuild trust after such betrayal? The affair partner needs to take personal responsibility for the damage done without shifting blame. My wife seems unwilling to do this, which experts say is crucial for healing. How do you know when to keep working versus when to accept it's time to move on? Have any of you successfully rebuilt a marriage after something like this, or realized it was better to walk away? Stories number 26. My 28M, GF, 25F, is bothered by my past partners mostly being plus-sized and not sure what to say. Throw away just in case. So, my partner and I have been together for a year and a half and I think she's awesome. She's funny, smart, beautiful, and usually good at communication. We used to be pretty open and unbothered about each other's pasts. We didn't talk about it excessively but just when it made sense, and I never got the vibe that my GF was bothered by any of it until recently. Recently, we ran into two people I have dated in the past. My GF knew it was them. I have mentioned their names, and when we ran into them, my GF was super kind and friendly. My GF started to act somewhat weird after the interaction but nothing super strange until a few days later. She and I were in bed the other night and she asked if she could ask an embarrassing question and I said sure. She told me, "I'm not proud of this and it makes me look insane, but after running into your exes, I found out what some of your other exes looked like. Do you have a thing for plus-sized women?" This question kinda caught me off guard. This was not something I thought about really until this moment. For context, I have been with 8 people before, either in a relationship or just sorta casual dating type relationship. I just realized 6 out of 8 would be considered plus-sized and 1 girl was average-sized, not skinny or plus-sized. My GF is super thin and I would say has a conventionally attractive body. Small waist and petite frame but still hourglass-shaped. I told her, I never thought about the people's bodies as a type. I have gone for personality more than their body. My GF nodded and said okay, thanks for answering. And we went to bed. The next day, I left for work but forgot something so had to drive back. My GF was on the phone and I don't think she realized I was back home. I shouldn't have done this but I eavesdropped on her convo. I heard my name. I couldn't catch all the convo through the walls but it seemed she was upset about our convo last night. I heard she was certain my name had a thing for plus-sized women and that's why I don't pursue her often. This comment shocked me because I felt like we have a very reciprocal relationship. It totally caught me off guard. I left for work but I can't stop thinking about the sudden change in my GF's behavior. TLDR, GF found out my past partners were almost all plus-sized and now she is acting weird. Update, thank you to everyone who left understanding comments. The advice that was kind was helpful. We talked and I let her know she is gorgeous and 100% my type and that I did overhear but wasn't mad about her convo with her friend and just wanted to make sure she was feeling okay in our relationship. She apologized for not communicating and acting insecure. She explained she had an ex who would always assert men had one type and made her feel bad in her body and she projected the trauma she had with him onto ours. She did say she was suspecting something was wrong with her because she feels that I do not initiate sex. I explained my sex drive has not been high due to stress and I do find her sexy and gorgeous and apologized for not reassuring her enough. I will not lie, and this is very dumb of me, I did not realize that someone whose body is slim and fit and I would say is the beauty standard could feel like she was anything less than perfect. I didn't compliment her enough because I thought her beauty was just objectively there. She appreciated me saying that and apologized if it seemed like she was putting down plus-sized women. We are good now. Stories number 27. Found a girl ODing and saved her life. Found out more about the girl and what happened to her later. This is a bit long, but it's also how it happened. Sunday afternoon my wife, daughter's friend, the dog and myself went to the river to play and collect some pretty rocks since it was so nice outside. We live within walking distance and on the way back, we were about to leave the levee along our normally used path when both my wife and I spotted something on the levee about 50 feet away. We couldn't tell what it was. I asked my wife to take the dog's leash so I could go check, and to please take the girl a little way further away while I go make sure it's just garbage. As I got closer and saw it was a person, I quickly told my wife and asked her to call 911. I went over to the person and found out it was a young-looking girl, and she was still breathing. I ran back to my wife who was on the phone with emergency services and relayed the info that it was a young female, still breathing, not conscious. I then ran back to the girl and tried loudly shouting at her to see if I could get some reaction, but I was very hesitant to touch her since I could see she was actively breathing. Her phone, which had been in her open hand the entire time, began to make ringing noises and I tried to answer it, but it was some kind of Instagram thing and not an actual call. I dunno. I set her phone back into her hand and about 30 seconds later a police officer showed up. I waved at the officer to get his attention to the exact location. He quickly ran up to me and gave her a very brief checkout before administering a dose of Narcan. He waited a few seconds and began to shake her and shouting a bit to get her awake, which resulted in a moan and partial roll from her. He kept trying to get her awake for maybe another 30 seconds and the ambulance showed up. They almost drove by but saw me waving at them and managed to just barely make the turn. 3 EMTs hurried up to us and checked her vitals and pupils, and in the next 90 seconds they had her standing and eyes open. I figured there was nothing else they needed me for. I thanked them and quickly got out of the way. A side note, I'm very impressed with the reaction time of both the police and the ambulance. They were both on site within 5 minutes of my wife calling them. The next day at work, I mentioned this to a coworker whose father I know owns the trailer park right next to where I found the girl. My coworker found out more about what happened, and I hate it. Apparently the girl had gotten some weed from her cousin which had been laced contaminated with fentanyl. It also sounds like her cousin was with her, and left her laying there when she collapsed. Also found out she had to be administered 2 more doses of Narcan while in the ambulance and that she was only 13 years old. Also learned I sort of know her. I actually know her parents as I worked with them both about 10 years ago. I remember seeing her as a small 2 to 3 year old kid, haven't seen her since though so I obviously didn't recognize her. I'm glad it was my family who found her and she will be okay. Someone could have easily drug her away down into the trees and she would have never been seen or heard again. I'm terrified for my daughter, who is about half this girl's age. I can't believe how close I ended up being to her family. I don't know how to end this, but I needed to share the story. Teach your kids how to be smart and responsible. You won't always be there to tell them yourself. And always wash your hands after touching random objects. I vigorously washed my hands when I got home since I touched her phone which could have been contaminated with fentanyl for all I knew. Stories number 28. Ada for wanting to divorce my husband after finding out he cheated on me with his coworker. So here's the deal. I, F32, have been married to my husband, M, 34, for 7 years. We've always had a pretty good marriage, or at least that's what I thought. Like, we've had our issues, sure, but nothing I thought would lead to this. He's always been loving, and I've always trusted him, or at least, I did. Last weekend, we went out grocery shopping, and on the way back, he decided to stop at the petrol station to fill up the car. I stayed in the car since I was checking something on my phone. Normally, I wouldn't snoop through his stuff, but for some reason, I noticed his phone buzz on the seat. I don't even know why, but something just felt off, so I picked it up. I didn't expect anything weird, but the moment I saw the message preview, my heart dropped. It was from someone named Sarah, a coworker of his. I recognized the name but never thought much of her before. The message said, "Can't wait to see you tonight." I froze. I mean, who the hell is this? And why is she sending messages like that to my husband? I felt like I couldn't breathe. I know I should have just put the phone down, but I didn't. I unlocked it and read through the whole conversation. It was all flirtatious, dirty texts. He was sending her all this stuff, and it was clear they'd been seeing each other for a while. I could barely see straight. My whole world just fell apart. When he came back to the car, I didn't say anything at first. I was just numb. We drove home in silence. But when we got inside, I just couldn't hold it in anymore. I asked him, straight up, "Are you sleeping with Sarah?" His face went white. He started stammering, trying to deny it at first, but eventually, he admitted to everything. He said it was a mistake and that it wasn't supposed to go this far, but it did. He begged for my forgiveness, promised he'd cut all ties with her, said he was sorry and it would never happen again. But all I could think was, how could you do this to me? I was just devastated. I didn't know what to say, and I couldn't even look at him without feeling sick. I asked for space to think things over, but now it's been days, and I just can't get past it. I don't know if I can forgive him. I don't know if I can trust him again. I feel like everything we built was just a lie. He's been apologizing non-stop, telling me he loves me and that he'll do whatever it takes to make it right. But it doesn't change the fact that he betrayed me. I've been thinking about divorce a lot, but then I feel guilty. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm just too hurt right now and need time to process. I love him, but I'm so angry and hurt, and I just can't stop thinking about what he did. So, Ada for wanting to divorce him after finding out? Or should I give him a chance to make things right? I'm so lost right now. Stories number 29. Women don't have glow-ups after leaving good, healthy relationships. I broke up with my partner of almost a decade about 8 months ago. Since then I've lost weight, cut and dyed my hair to suit my tastes, gotten a better sense of fashion, landed a new job, gotten a new car, my teeth are whiter, I don't drink or smoke weed to cope anymore, the list goes on. We were together from our mid-20s to our mid-30s. My life feels like it had a soft restart. I lost his family as a support system, they were never really there for me and have not reached out to me since the mutual breakup. But, with this loss I found myself more than I ever did with him. I've had some changes in how I view men in general because of him. It's really disappointing to see how unprepared men are to deal with the consequences of their own actions. But I'm happier, and I finally feel like I can be myself. Stories number 30. Landlady said I can't use the outlet on my townhouse to charge my car. I purchased an electric car 2 months ago. I use a LVL1 charger at my townhouse from a regular outlet outside of the house I rent. I am a 22M in student housing and I recently graduated but am trying to take advantage of cheap rent as long as I can. I got an email saying that I cannot use my charger to charge my car anymore because it is a tripping hazard. I replied back saying I will take the proper safety precautions to make sure it is not a hazard and that if they can tell me where I am breaking the lease by charging my car then I am more than happy to stop. The landlady called me right after saying that I was being snappy and rude. Then she said that if she tells me something that I better listen. I asked if I covered the cord with one of those construction cord channels that is discreet if it would be an issue and she told me that I cannot use the outlet to charge my car at all. I asked her why can I not use the outlet when there are plenty of diesel trucks and other electric cars that use the outlets all the time and she said they figured it out with them. I asked if we could work out an agreement and I would be happy to increase my rent for any extra electricity I use but she snapped at me again and she told me if I continued to use the outlet they would tow my car and it would be my fault. I read that in my state there is a right to charge law, where landlords cannot prevent tenants from charging as long as it is safe and I pay for the electricity and I am not sure how to bring this up. And from my POV she seems completely in the wrong as I pay rent and that outlet is connected to the house I rent can be used how I want, in a safe manner. I have a feeling it may be a political thing because it's a Tesla and those are controversial but there are at least 4 to 5 people who use the outside outlet to charge their car or plug in their diesel trucks. Is she trying to take advantage of me because I am some 22-year-old naive student? And what course of action should I take? I think she called me because she didn't want it in writing that if she tells me to do something I better listen. Edit, I am located in Colorado. Edit 2, thank you for all the advice, I do see her point of view and as to why it may not be a great idea. I am going to talk to her and see if there are any safe options that the company would be okay with me using and if not just give up on it for now. To clear some confusion from the original post, I pay a flat rate for electricity and offer to pay for any excess I used. I know I came off like a dick but it was sort of hard not to when she was degrading me on the phone and told me that she came to agreements with other tenants but did not want to come to an agreement with me. I apologized for coming off snappy in my email and explained that I just did not think it was a violation of the lease, and she has responded since saying that maintenance is going to see if there is anything they can do and to not use the outlet for now and I plan on respecting her wishes. Also for everyone concerned about me being in student housing, prior to signing my lease I asked if I graduated early would I be able to stay for the remainder and they said this was a common occurrence and there was no issue with that. Final edit, I met with the leasing office today and fortunately this does have a happy ending. They agreed to install 2 40V outlets that I can pay for a parking spot to use. This is actually better than the current situation I had and I just have to pay an extra $30 per month to use the outlets and have my own dedicated parking spot. The landlady said that she didn't mean to be rude and I apologized as well and she said that there have been many requests for dedicated outlets to use, and with this solution there will be no extension cords or any cords running on sidewalk. I think that while I may have not went about this the best way, it ended up working out well. Thank you to everyone for the advice and the insight to this situation. Stories number 31. Aita for saying my birth parents are awful people and my birth siblings are old enough to realize that. This was a disagreement I had with my SIL and I need to hear if I'm wrong or not. We were talking about my birth family and how I won't ever give them a chance to be in my life if they ever decide they want to know me. SIL felt that was unfair but mostly to my birth siblings and how they were raised in the environment that made them reject me. She also claimed my parents' trauma should be taken into account. I said I didn't care and my birth parents are awful people for how they have treated me and my birth siblings are now old enough to realize this and do better. For some background, when I was F6 and my birth siblings were F4, M3, and F6 months we were removed from our birth parents and placed into foster care separately. I was devastated and spent over a year begging to go home to my parents and siblings. I was bounced around a lot and was considered difficult to place because of my desire to go home. Even though I didn't have the happiest memories of my birth family, the younger me was very attached to them all and didn't really care that I was somewhat neglected and ignored. To me they were my family and I loved them. Roughly 18 months after I was removed, a temporary case worker was assigned to me while my normal one was sick. She told me I needed to stop pining after my family and asking to go home to them. She said it was making families reject me. When I told her I missed my family and wanted us to be together again, she told me my birth parents had already taken my birth siblings back, months before that point, and had chosen not to take me back. She told me to accept that and move on and stop wanting them. I don't know why she told me that and expected it to help, but it broke something inside of me, and for most of my life I was left wondering why and struggling with the reality. When I was 9, I was placed with my parents and they stuck with me when everyone else found me to be too much, and they gave me a home and a family, eventually 2 siblings, and they probably saved my life. But it couldn't remove the trauma I carried around with me, and it left questions unanswered. I should also mention that I confirmed later that what the caseworker told me was correct, and my birth parents had taken my birth siblings out of foster care a year after we were placed in care. Apparently they had gone to therapy and worked on their issues, but willingly chose not to do the same for me. In my mid-20s, when I got engaged to my husband and we agreed we wanted a family, I decided I needed to find some degree of closure, or try to at least, because therapy alone wasn't enough to stop that little girl inside from crying and wondering why she wasn't wanted as well. I did a birth family search and ended up connecting to my cousin, who not only remembered me but after seeing a photo I remembered her as well. I was sent to her parents' house frequently to play with her, something I had blanked out honestly. After we reconnected I asked her questions, and firstly she confirmed that my birth parents and birth siblings didn't want to meet me, and secondly that I was not thought of well in my birth household. I found out that I had been a twin and my twin brother had been stillborn, and my birth parents blamed me, and fell into depression and didn't take the best care of us, but after therapy they realized they loved and wanted their younger 3 kids. But I was still who they blamed. My birth siblings knew the story and my cousin had attempted to show them how fucked up it was, but they hated me and saw me as a waste of their time. Hearing the story, finding out the truth, and even seeing the grave where they had called him a big brother to our 3 younger birth siblings but no mention of me was difficult. I did struggle for a while. But with my family and husband, then fiancé, around me I healed and finally put that little girl who wondered why to rest. I got married and my husband and I had children together once I had become a healthier version of myself. My cousin and I are very close and she's estranged from my whole birth family, including her parents. My ILs knew about my history and I was open and honest with them about everything I had learned and been through. In part because the person they first met was a very broken young woman and my fiancé and I stalled our wedding so I could get help, and once I was in a better place I let go of any shame or guilt and realized I had no reason to hide. For reasons not fully known to me, but my husband has an idea, my SIL brought the topic up to me and like I mentioned we disagreed, and she found it very wrong of me to hold the view I do. She thinks I should be showing more grace to everyone but mostly to my birth siblings because it's how they grew up. She thinks saying they're old enough is BS when it took me so long to come to terms with everything and heal. She believes my feelings show a lack of compassion, and while others disagree with her I wonder if I should be less harsh when addressing the topic of my birth family after all this time. Stories number 32. I, 35F, got diagnosed with an incurable disease, and I want to leave my wife, 34F, so she won't have to deal with it. In a couple years I'll start getting strokes. They'll keep happening and drop me into dementia. After that I basically become a vegetable. The doctor told me I'm likely not making it past 60, and I absolutely 100% do not want to put my wife through that. We got married 3 years ago, have been together for 8. I understand there's the in sickness and in health, but I feel like forcing her to go through this is cruelty. That's not fair to her. She doesn't deserve that. My brother got really mad at me and told me to reverse the roles in my head. If she were sick, would I want to leave her? No, I wouldn't. But I don't want to rob her of a life either. And I don't want to wait until things go downhill. Let's just end it in the calm before the storm. What are your thoughts? I want to hear from people who aren't family. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting her to have a rich, fulfilling life instead of spending 20 years watching me die. Edit, I truly appreciate every single response. From short replies to strongly worded replies. And I'll keep reading new ones. I don't blame any range of reaction to my post, I worded it frankly and that invites frank answers. And I especially appreciate your stories shared. That comes from a vulnerable place and you still chose to share it with me. It's been an emotional afternoon and I had a knee-jerk reaction, and I don't regret posting it. Yes, it's a website full of strangers, but if I didn't put this into words, even impulsive fast ones, I would have burst. As for my wife, we went straight to some very gentle talking. I showed her the post, we even went through some comments. Our discussion was similarly a frank one. How do we feel in this moment? What are we thinking in this moment? We have plenty of time to analyze this, so let's focus on the here and now. So again, I truly thank you all for reading and taking the time to respond. Stories number 33. My boyfriend believes that marriage ruins good relationships. Hey Reddit, I'm really struggling with something my boyfriend said, and I'd love to get some perspectives on it. Recently, we were talking about marriage, and he said something that's been on my mind ever since. He told me that marriage ruins a good relationship, and that all marriages eventually become bad. He mentioned that even the ones that seem perfect from the outside are fake. He's come to this conclusion based on his experiences growing up and seeing marriage struggles within his own family. I understand that he's speaking from personal experience. He thinks that two people can be happier unmarried and maintain a happy and healthy relationship without ever getting married. Do you think his viewpoint is based more on fear? Stories number 34. I have seen too many babies die this year. I am a neonatal nurse practitioner and in general I love my job. But this year has been rough. I have of course lost babies before but typically only 1 to 2 a year. I have already exceeded that number this year. The most recent was a 14-pound baby who got stuck in the birth canal and I had to stand there waiting for them to get him out, fearing the worst. He came out without a heart rate and over 20 minutes later of trying everything we could never get a heart rate. We also had a baby who was basically exsanguinities when mom abrupt during a home birth. They were able to resuscitate him when he was initially brought in but was in organ failure by the time my shift started and was dead about an hour after I arrived. I've also had a micro preemie whom we had been caring for over a month get septic and again less than an hour after my arrival in the morning we had to code him and ultimately lost him. It has been rough. Stories number 35. My wife, 32F, has asked for space after I, 38M, addressed my issues with her spending time with other men. What are your thoughts? 38M, and my wife, 32F, have been together for 13 years and been married for 2.5. We have 2 children, F7 and F4. I come from a family of 7 with plenty of relatives, whereas she is an only child. As such, I keep few friends as I have a large family while she has a network of friends to go out with and talk to. I am extremely family orientated and choose time with them over anything else. Our relationship has been great, we hardly ever argue, we have very similar interests and outlook on life. I work Monday to Friday full time, she works shift work in care. Recently, she has got very friendly with a couple of guys at work. One who she seems to message all day and taxi around regularly, sometimes going out shopping together in the evening. He is also married. She says his English isn't great and being from another country doesn't know many people here, so she is looking after him somewhat. I have let this go for some time but addressed it recently that I am a little uncomfortable with the out-of-hours alone time. I hoped she had understood my position there and cut back, which she seemed to do though things have felt a little awkward since we agreed we need more time to ourselves. Last night she collected an item for another male work colleague who can't drive and who she speaks to a lot, from a different town. Rather than drop it off at his door while he was at work she decided to come home, then go out at 9 to pick him up from work and take him back to his. I know this is a reasonably big deal because she suffers from a lot of tiredness for medical reasons, so for her to go out in the cold late at night is a big deal. Again, I addressed this, that I didn't feel there was a need to that scenario and I was uncomfortable with it. With these, I do relay that I'm not trying to control but just making sure she knows how I feel, in the hope that she understands why it is upsetting me. Only today, things have been off and I received a message while at work saying she needs space, she feels unsettled and overwhelmed. I feel like I am in panic mode a little. I have never done a thing without first considering her feelings. I consider myself to be a great dad, I do a lot of the housework and have never put her in any sort of discomfort around my own behaviors. There was however a time long in the past, where I try to leave it though I can't deny it hurts me to this day, where a similar scenario arose, before we had kids, where she thought it appropriate to show a foreign lad who worked with her mum, a town an hour away and walking round a country park together, without telling me she was doing so or messaging me at all that day. It broke me a little though I have no idea the truth of what happened. I have never controlled how much she goes out with friends, ever, but these situations have seemed so full on that I am living in an unsettled state. I know she is a lovely person that will help anyone, and I am in total fear of losing her. I'm hoping someone can take the neutral position here and let me know if I am valid in my feelings about her spending evening time with other men, or if perhaps I am overthinking things. And now she has asked for space. I will try and fight all urges to give it, though I would also welcome any advice there. This feeling is horrible. TLDR, I am uncomfortable with the time my wife spends alone with other men. Having told her it upsets me, she has told me she is upset and overwhelmed and needs space. Advice would be great. Thanks for the read in advance. Stories number 36. Men over 40, how would you react to a much younger woman approaching you? I might regret posting this because I know so many people have negative opinions about large age gaps. But personally I don't care about the age gap so long as they're a good person. For context, I, 30F, have had a crush on a coworker, 50M, divorced single, for about a year. I flirted with them whenever I spoke to them, but I wouldn't say I was obvious as none of my team have questioned it before, so I assume they think I'm just being friendly. Anyway, he's since left the company and started a new job elsewhere. Before he left he said he wanted to stay in contact with me and that he appreciated the friendship. I gave him my number so he could stay in touch, hoping he'd message me soon after at least, but he didn't. I still trust that he'll get in touch with me eventually, as he said he would, and I'm taking his word for it. From experience, with other people I've fancied in the past, I would get impatient and contact them. Also due to those experiences though, I'm scared of rejection. Would you want a 30-year-old woman to feel confident enough to contact you out of the blue? Should I continue to wait for him to reach out? I really don't know what to think. It's driving me nuts. Stories number 37. Aita for kicking my MIL out of the delivery room. I 28F recently gave birth, but one story has been the topic of discussion in my family. Ever since I announced I was pregnant my family has been overjoyed and happy for me, all but one. My MIL was very insistent that she be in the delivery room. I didn't really want her there, but then again with people like her I didn't really have a choice. Anyway, we get to the delivery room and I am in labor when my husband, let's call Jim, gets a call from his mother, my MIL, demanding to pause the birth for her to get here. OFC Jim just hung up, but unlucky as she had already got here 10 minutes later. Seeing as how I was pushing out a whole human I quite obviously started screaming in pain. My MIL in her infinite wisdom shoved her hand over my mouth and told me to stop making a scene, so I was pissed off. I right back screamed at her to get the fuck out and had her escorted out by a nurse. I checked my phone a couple days ago, I am 2 weeks postpartum, and I get an onslaught of messages telling me what a bitch I am. Being the petty person I am, I found a video of her in labor, not a weird one like nothing sexual or naked and in it she was screaming, so I clipped the video to that and then sent it into the GIF place, and sent her a GIF on WhatsApp of her screaming in her labor. Then I turned my phone off. But that didn't stop her. She came right over to my house and called me an asshole. So, am I the a-hole? Please look at this, Charlotte. Stories number 38. Generalizations about men make me hate myself. Hi, I see a lot of generalizations about men online and they make me full of self-hatred. I'm constantly scared of being a creep and I know it affects the way I interact with women. I know that I don't truly treat them the same as men, not because I think they're in any way inferior but because I'm scared of being a creep. I hate that I do this. I worry that I'm doomed to be one of the bad guys no matter what I do. To be clear, I'm not bashing feminism. I recognize that women have it much harder. I recognize that women experience oppression I can't even imagine, and that generalizations about men are a result of that. It's not women's job to cater to my feelings, my issues are mine to deal with, not anyone else's job to fix. I just wish I didn't hate myself and I could be a decent human being. Stories number 39. Is there a preference for sitting on face? Genuine question. As a female I've been seeing posts about guys liking to be sat on. Not sure about other women, but do guys really not mind the feel, scent and taste of it? Sorry if this came across crass, I'm genuinely curious. Like, I don't mind going down on my man, because his is an external appendix, but ours are, well, in the opposite direction, so I can't imagine how a guy might like his face being sat on. Please help with serious answers. My face burned red typing this. Edit. Tie everyone for your honest answers. I didn't expect most men to really enjoy it. I guess cause most of us females can be sensitive to how hygienic or safe this might be for our men to enjoy. Ty for your help. I feel like I understand men's thinking in this topic better now. I just didn't want to accidentally uninstall him from existence, so I thought to ask first. Stories number 40. I just went to Little Caesars for lunch. I go in and order my pizza. While I'm waiting, a group of 17 to 18 high school boys on lunch come in and order breadsticks. The kid kept saying, "Yes Zaddy, thank you Zaddy, just the breadsticks Zaddy," trying to get a reaction out of the guy taking their order. They stepped aside to wait also, and I overheard them talking about how they have aura. Then they made fun of how one of their fellow students runs extremely zesty, and mocked how he runs funny like a gay man. This kid is calling people zaddy, but then makes fun of someone for running like a zesty guy. To top it off, when I went outside I noticed they had parked in the handicapped loading zone, not even in the actual handicap parking spot. There were regular parking spots open right next to the car. This new age lingo is so annoying to the max. Some of these kids are doomed, their future is not bright. This was all just like sad, somehow embarrassing to listen to and watch honestly. Thanks for listening. Stories number 41. Aita for thinking I was great in bed until my wife admitted she's been faking it, so this one hurts. I, 34M, have been with my wife, 32F, for 8 years, married for 5. I always thought our sex life was solid. She seemed into it, I put in effort, and honestly, I thought I was pretty damn good in bed. Then, last week, we were having a deep conversation about our relationship, just talking about things we could improve. Out of nowhere, she drops, "I should probably tell you I've never actually had an orgasm with you." I laughed because I legit thought she was joking. She wasn't. Turns out, she's been faking it our entire relationship 8 damn years. I was stunned. I asked why she never told me, and she said she didn't want to hurt my feelings, and that it's not a big deal. Not a big deal. I've been walking around thinking I was a sex god while she was out here giving Oscar-worthy performances. I won't lie, I feel like a complete idiot. I told her I would have rather known sooner so we could, fix it. But now, I just feel embarrassed, frustrated, and kinda betrayed. I get that she didn't want to make me feel bad, but I also feel like she took away my chance to actually learn and improve. Like, was I that bad that she thought honesty wasn't even worth it? So, Aita for being upset. Or am I overreacting to something that apparently doesn't matter? Edit. So after reading through the comments, someone mentioned a sex course taught by actual adult performers this one, and at this point, I figured, why not? I started watching it just to see if I was really missing something, and damn, let's just say there's a lot they don't teach you in regular life. I tried just one small thing they explained, and suddenly my wife was way more into it. She didn't even know I had been looking into this, but tonight, she was way more relaxed, engaged, and actually enjoying herself. Maybe it's placebo, maybe it's real, but I'll be finishing the course either way. So, to whoever dropped that recommendation, MVP. Stories number 42. I was falsely accused, proven innocent, I want to take it further. During September 2024 I stayed over a female friend's house and 2 days later I was arrested under suspicion of criminal damage. I was invited over because her parents were on holiday, I stayed one night, nothing weird happened at all and I went work in the morning the next day. 2 days later I'm arrested by 4 police officers around midday, taken out of my bedroom of my house for my entire family to witness. My possessions are taken, my watch, my phone, my AirPods, my car keys, my wallet. I'm also handcuffed and put in the back of a police car. I'm then taken to the police station where I finally find out I have been accused of ejaculating on multiple items of this girl's property. I'm relieved when I hear this because I know I haven't done this after spending over an hour stressed thinking I've damaged someone's property without realizing. I'm then kept in a cell for 10 hours before being questioned. Some of the questions were outrageous, like this girl had set me up and lied to the police officers as she'd been questioned before me. I was told she said that I forcefully invited myself to stay over her house, and I forcefully stayed in her bed with her. She told me to sleep in her bed on the wall side and never offered an alternative. I also found out the items I had apparently ejaculated on were her pillows, bed sheets, duvet, 2 stuffed toys, a pair of her underwear and her parents' bed sheets. Like what? These items were taken in for forensics. After being questioned and all procedures were done and I was released on bail and let to go home, but they kept my watch and my phone for investigation. While this investigation was ongoing it felt like this girl and her best friend made it their life mission to ruin my life. Every single mutual friend of ours knew every detail about this investigation, and I was portrayed as guilty because that's what those girls were telling people. My friends that they didn't even know were also messaged by these girls telling them all about it. People I didn't even know existed thought that I had done what they claimed I did. I've seen countless messages, voice notes, Snapchats and calls from these girls to my friends saying so much shit about me and the investigation. They even laughed about me getting arrested, which makes me think they didn't take it seriously and that they set me up. I've had people message me about it, threaten me, I've been blocked by a few friends, some other people won't associate with me anymore, I've even been physically shoved in a pub by another one of their close friends unprovoked. I've kept all evidence of them sending my friends messages, voice notes, photos, everything in case there was something I can do with them. Today I found out that forensics came back and there was no trace of semen, no trace of my DNA anywhere. The police said that my bail has been dropped, the investigation has been dropped and there will be no further action against me. I was put through so much shit, I went through so much stress, lost so many friends. I became severely depressed because of this. I'm now on antidepressants, I have therapy, I hardly leave my house anymore because I'm nervous to see those girls or the people that believe this about me. This doesn't feel just to me. I want to take this further. I want to press charges. I was falsely accused of doing something awful and I went through an insane amount of defamation. I want compensation for this. I don't really know what to do next, can I even take this further or will it get pushed aside? I'm hoping somebody on here can give me advice and help me out with this. Thank you for taking time to read this. Stories number 43. I cannot handle the pain anymore. It must be stopped. I have just quit my job. I have just booked a flight to Japan. It will be the place where I rest. I am sick of seeing my 6-year-old niece suffering from leukemia. I am sick of seeing blood ooze out of my dad's toe when he walks. I am sick of feeling sad when I think of when my dad says he is just waiting to die. I am sick of my mom telling me that people bully her at work every day after work. I am sick of people cheating on me and betraying me. I am sick of working hard and get punished while slackers who sucks dick gets it all. I am sick of not being able to help the people I love. April 3rd will be the day. I will be selfish just this one time. Edit. Thank you to everyone who have taken their time to read my post and those who reached out. I've cried reading a lot of the replies and I am sorry some of you have known someone who committed suicide or is suicidal. My plan is to tell my family I am moving back to my motherland to live a peaceful life. That way if I disappear, they won't know and will just think I am living a good life. To all the people who says I am just seeking attention. I have honestly struggled with mental health ever since I was little. Growing up as an introverted kid, people would always make fun of me and talk behind my back. Every time I bring homemade food to school, I would get laughed at and harassed. I remember one time I bring bon tet to school and everyone would say "EW, is that alien food?" and laughed in my face. Growing up as one of 5 Asian kid in the school was hard. Being introverted made it harder because I couldn't tell anyone and just let it bottled up. I would get bullied verbally and physically because I couldn't get along with anyone. To make it worse, when I got home, I had an abusive brother who used to beat me up every day. I still remember till this day. He used to hit me specifically in the head with metal poles, metal chairs, rolled up phone books, plates, bowls, planks and stuff. I personally don't blame him. Growing up as a quiet introvert, I had no feelings and because I couldn't express myself, all I could do is cry or look at him with a cold-blooded face whenever I try to explain to him as he beat me up, and that pisses him off more, which results in more beating. He would tell me I am stupid and useless and would constantly tell me to kill myself. My dad and mom knew about the beating, but due to language barrier they didn't know what it was about because my brother used to say I'm trying to make him a man. To make it worse, I still remember it till this day. My dad once said I was the worst breed possible. Now that I am older, things have gotten better until the last couple of months. The childhood memories, the childhood trauma, the things that is happening currently around me has put me into a negative state again. Enough about me and please don't be too hard on me, my state of mind is honestly really fragile right now. I am sorry for wasting your time, I just needed to get it off my chest thinking no one would see it. Again, thank you to everyone who has reached out, I really appreciate it. Please, if any of you have spare time on your hand, please visit Suicide Watch subreddit because there are a lot of people like me who needs help and wants to suicide. Stories number 44. Aita for letting the house get disgusting to prove a point to my roommate. I, 26F, have lived with my roommate, Jenna, 27F, for about a year and a half. We met through mutual friends and got along well enough at first. She's fun to hang out with, we have similar schedules, and for the most part, we respect each other's space. The one issue? Cleaning. From day one, I took on more of the household chores. Not because I love cleaning, but because Jenna is the type who will leave dishes in the sink to soak for days, or let hair pile up in the shower drain until it's practically its own organism. At first, I didn't mind, some people just don't notice messes the way others do. I figured if I kept things relatively tidy, she'd eventually catch on and do her part. Spoiler, she did not. I started feeling resentful when I realized she wasn't even attempting to contribute. If I didn't sweep the floors, they wouldn't get swept. If I didn't wipe the counters, they'd stay grimy. I brought it up casually a few times, saying things like, "Hey, could you grab the vacuum today? Or, maybe we can trade off on bathroom duty." She'd always say, "Oh, for sure," and then, nothing. The real breaking point, though, was when I overheard her telling our mutual friends that she was the one who keeps the place running. I was in my room, and she was on a FT call with some friends, chatting about how exhausting it was to always be the one picking up the slack at home. She even told her mom that she was the only one making sure the apartment stayed livable. That night, I asked her kind of jokingly if she really thought she did all the cleaning. She laughed and said, "Well, I mean, I do my part." I just nodded, deciding then and there that I was done. If she really believed she was the one keeping the place together, she could prove it. So, I stopped cleaning. Completely. Dishes piled up. The bathroom sink became a toothpaste crime scene. Dust bunnies turned into dust wolves. I waited. At first, Jenna didn't seem to notice. But after about a week, she finally commented, "Wow, the place is kind of a mess." I just said, "Yeah, weird, right?" She muttered something about being busy and wiped down one single counter. Before sighing dramatically and going back to scrolling her phone. Another week passed, and I could tell she was starting to get annoyed. One night, she came into my room and asked, "So, are you planning on doing the dishes?" I said, "Oh, I thought you were the one keeping things clean." She got super defensive, saying she does clean, just in a less obvious way, and that I was being petty. I said I just assumed she'd keep doing what she said she'd been doing this whole time. She rolled her eyes and said I was making things uncomfortable for no reason. I don't love living in a dirty apartment, but I refuse to clean up just so she can keep pretending she's the responsible one. But now I'm wondering if I took it too far. Aita for letting the apartment turn into a disaster just to prove a point. Stories number 45. Aita for crashing out cause I'm not invited on the family holiday. Hi guys, 23F, my family recently booked a holiday and asked if I wanted to come. I said I couldn't afford it and that was that. Recently was talking to my mum and she said that both of my younger siblings are bringing a friend that she is fully paying for. My brother is 20, like he lives at home and she is paying for him and a friend. And my sister, 15, and her friend to go on an all-inclusive holiday to Spain. It was the same last year, they all went on holiday without me, but last year they didn't bring anyone else. I was fine with it until I heard my mum's paying for other kids to do but wouldn't bring me, so I'm annoyed with her. I do so much for her as well, like way more than my other siblings. I live 10 minutes down the road, so always picking up, dropping to school or doing things around the house for her, but I'm hurt that she clearly had this extra money to spend to bring other people's kids on holiday but not me. Am I the asshole? Edit. I initially asked a few weeks ago for her to tell me how much it would be if I booked on, cause I would have went if it was affordable. She got back to me saying it's 900 and I just said I couldn't afford that anyways, and that was it. Until I found out she's paying for two of my siblings' friends. She said in convo who was going and I just said, "What, you could have paid for me to go but instead you are paying for two other children," and she ignored that comment. Stories number 46. My 18F stepfather, 45M, is going to force me to move out because my mother, 38F, is pregnant, and my mother is just going along with it. How do I not resent my mother for this? My mother married my stepfather last year. My parents had divorced. My mother and father had never been very compatible as my father was Russian and the cultural differences between him and my mother were too large, I suppose. So he went back to Russia, married another woman, and now has quite a few children, although I'm not allowed to see them. But he is not a terrible person. He has always sent my mother money for me and he never forgot my birthday, Easter, Christmas, or the first day of school for the year. I don't have a strong connection to him, but I don't have particularly negative feelings for him either. However, I do have them with my stepfather. He criticizes my mother's parenting of me, thinks I'm off the rails or something, but I'm literally fine. I go out with my friends, yes, but I'm in the best kind of secondary education, and my grades are good. Other parents would be perfectly fine with me because I don't do anything that wrong. And when he found out about my boyfriend, he acted like I was some kind of terrible person. It was ridiculous. When he is a perfectly respectable guy, that's very nice. So when they got married, I was not very happy, but at least the cake was good and my mother was happy. But recently my mother told me she was pregnant. I was upset. I tried to hide it because I didn't want to make her sad because she's really happy, but I really don't like it. It's not fair. And it's a girl, so she's basically replacing me with another baby with her perfect stupid husband. But then he got mad at me for not being really happy and making my mother sad, but of course I'm not going to be that happy. And I do feel bad for my mother because it's not her, it's him. But I felt that I could probably tolerate it, until all this happened. I finished school in July, and he basically came up to me and asked what my plans were for where I was going to live after I finished school. I said here, because I was planning on living at home for about 2 or 3 more years and then move out, because I don't feel ready to move out yet, and I do love my mother, so I didn't want to leave just yet. And then he told me that he and my mother had decided that after I finished school I would no longer be welcome to live there, because they don't feel comfortable with my hostility in the house. And I get it, legally I'm an adult, and they can make me move out if I want. But it's the fact that my mother is taking his side, someone she's known for only 4 years, over me, when she knew me for my whole life and literally gave birth to me. And I feel awful. I love my mother, and now she's just trying to get rid of me for her perfect life with her stupid husband and baby. She told me she was sorry, but she just feels weak. I don't want to hate her, but I'm starting to, and I feel awful. Edit, I'm not American, I'm German. So some things are different compared to America. Stories number 47. My husband keeps correcting me in front of others, and it's making me look like a fake liar. Am I wrong for being upset? I, 29F, have been married to my husband, 27M, for about 3 years now. Something that has always bothered me is being told I'm wrong when I know for a fact I am right, and being called a liar, especially by a romantic partner. So here's what's been happening: I will say something in conversation, and he will jump in and say something like, "That's not true," or "You're making it sound like." This has become a huge issue, and something I've brought to his attention multiple times. The issue is he doesn't see he's even doing it. This happens in front of family, friends, on phone calls, really anywhere, and even with details so small. I'll say something happened a few months ago, and he'll jump in and say, "No, it wasn't, it was more than a few," when the timeline isn't relevant to what I'm saying. I'll provide a few examples. I was speaking with my parents on FaceTime and my mom said she made fish tacos, my dad's favorite. I know that my dad was excited, and my mom looked proud of her dish, so recognizing this, I said, "Wow, that looks delicious," as a compliment. As soon as I said that, my husband said, "No, it doesn't, you don't even like fish tacos." This was embarrassing for me and made me feel like I was acting fake. It got really awkward and quiet, and I said something like, "I don't like to eat fish tacos, but it still looks like an amazing dish." I spoke to him afterwards about how he doesn't need to correct me, and can he please just let little things go that don't need to be corrected. Example 2. I was again on FaceTime with my mom and was telling her about the electrical issues of our house and how we always get shocked when touching any appliance in the winter. We haven't done much research on the cause, but I thought it would be interesting to tell her. As I'm speaking, he jumps in and says, "You're making it sound like we have house problems and we don't." Again, I immediately feel like I'm being called a liar, and it's humiliating in front of other people. I say, "We don't know what the cause is, I'm just trying to tell her what could be happening." Am I wrong for getting so bothered by this? I just want to be able to speak without being constantly corrected over little things that don't matter. I've talked to him numerous times, and he doesn't see the issue. My coworker swears she's chronically ill and falling apart at the seams. I work in childcare and I have a 22-year-old coworker who swears she's completely broken. If someone says they have diabetes, she has it too, and it's way worse than theirs. Someone mentions they have scoliosis. She had to wear a back brace through high school and had 2 spinal surgeries to correct it. Oh, your mom has lupus. She got diagnosed at 12 years old. Your cousin has Tourette's. So does my coworker, even though her only tic is that she whistles on occasion. We push kids around in big strollers sometimes, they hold 4 to 6 kids at once. It's heavy, it's hard to push, I'll give her that. But she made it about 5 minutes today before she said, "My back hurts so bad. My scoliosis is flaring up and my kidney stones and plantar fasciitis are only making it worse. Like, girl, give me a break." She literally fell on the floor in the middle of a diaper change another day and said her fibromyalgia was flaring up and she needs to go to the hospital. Saw her ass at Subway on my lunch break like 30 minutes later. We've joked with our few male coworkers saying they should say they might have prostate cancer to see if she says she had the same thing as a kid. It's so fucking exhausting. Every time you see her, even just passing her in the hallway, she makes it a point to tell you that something hurts. Walked past her the other day and she said, "You know what I hate? When I pull muscles in the bottom of my feet. I can barely stand up." Can't tell you how many times she's trapped me to tell me how she's got 6 different autoimmune disorders and spina bifida on top of the scoliosis and ovarian cysts the size of grapefruits and insomnia, but also sleep paralysis, and you get the point. I would pay roughly $1 billion to get a hold of her medical records and share them with absolutely everyone that has ever or will ever come in contact with her. She has a girlfriend of 3 years and I can't even imagine what kind of person she must be to put up with this girl's bullshit every single second of every single day. Aita for punishing my daughter by not talking to her after she insulted me just because I asked her to help me in kitchen. My daughter will turn 11 this year and I am 24. She isn't my daughter but my niece. My brother died 3 years ago and after he died, I took on the responsibility to raise her. I know I am not her actual father, but since I have been raising her I feel like one, so I treat her and think of her as my daughter and do everything I can to help her. Her mom gave up on her when she was only 2 and she never even saw her mom, and I and my brother tried to beg her to see her daughter and talk to her, at least she flatly refused and berated us instead. 2 days ago I asked my daughter to wash plates because I have a lot of work to do in office and by the time I'll be back I'll be too exhausted and we will order something to eat instead of cooking. She said she doesn't want to. I told her that she can at least help me by washing a couple of plates. She said she won't. I told her that she has to, no excuses. She got angry and said I am not even her father and I don't get to command her. I was angry, extremely angry, not at her but at what she said. I changed her diaper and put her first above all else and raised her and do everything for her, and yet she says to me that I am not her father. Just because of this, I said to her that it's okay if she doesn't want to, I will hire a maid, and since I am not her father then I will stop talking to her or she can go live with her grandparents. She screamed fine and went back in her room, and thankfully she never said anything about going to her grandparents. I am currently so stressed, I have no fucking idea what to do. I don't know why she's acting like this suddenly, and it's extremely painful for me to see her ignoring me. I still cook for her and do my best to do what's necessary for her, and I even talk to her teacher, but she's being so difficult. Aita for not wanting my sister around me for at least the rest of my pregnancy. My sister, 40F, is mom to 6 boys and our relationship in the last several years has been off. She always wanted a daughter. Always. I, 31F, remember when I was a kid and she'd talk about the daughters she'd have. She had names picked out and this image in her head of how she'd dress them and such. When she met her husband she told him she wanted to get married young and have kids young, so she had plenty of time to make sure she had at least a few daughters. They had their first when they were 22 and their last when they were 34. My sister doesn't believe in having kids past that age. Actually, she said the only reason she had kids in her 30s was to try and have a girl. She doesn't believe in that. That was already a point of contention between us. She used to tell me I'd get too old to have kids because my husband and I didn't have kids in our 20s, or more specifically my 20s. I always rolled my eyes at her and tried to ignore it. When I gave birth to mine and my husband's son there was zero issue with my sister. But now I'm expecting again, and my mom informed me that my sister wanted me to find out the sex of the baby and let her know beforehand. Mom brought up how my sister had always wanted a daughter and how she was struggling with the idea I could live her dream, so she'd like time to process if true. I asked my mom if she was serious and she said they were actually hoping I'd let my sister help with names if we're having a girl, once she's processed the news and all. I told my mom it wasn't happening and she told me it could be fun, and my sister's got a long list of little girl names she saved for daughters. My sister called me after my talk with mom and screamed at me down the phone for being so insensitive and selfish. She told me it's a small ask to find out the sex and let her know so she finds out if I was lucky and got a girl this time around. Then went on a rant about how unfair it is, and she knows deep down I'm having a girl this time, and how unfair it is when I don't care about the sex of my kids, but she always did. My husband and I talked about it, and when I told him I wasn't sure I wanted to be around her right now, he agreed. He said her negativity wasn't good for me and who knows what she'd do if it got the best of her. So we decided we wouldn't see her for at least the rest of my pregnancy. My dad and brothers get it, but my sister and mom are pissed. My sister thinks I'm robbing her of the chance to experience a baby girl, and my mom said I'm overreacting. I tried to explain why to my mom, but she told me it wouldn't have hurt to make my sister feel included. I could easily see her trying to take over if this baby is a girl. Not just with the name but any decisions. Hell, when the baby's born, if we have a girl, I can see the potential for her to try and hog the baby. Not to mention the negativity about me having a girl and not her throughout my pregnancy. Aita for my decision.